Longevity, starting by creating my own liquor goo. Hello again, dear adventurers of the multiverse. Thanks for joining us once more on this epic journey. Remember, this story is pure science fiction from our wild imagination. So don't go trying to summon dragons in your backyard. The rights of this amazing novel belong entirely to its original author. We are only the narrators. Do you want more adventures? Show some love to our YouTube channel with a subscription and a like. And if you want exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting for you with open arms. Chapter 400, each with their own ulterior motives. June 15, 2024. Author, Xiangkangshan Zhe Shui Wu by Nian. 2 days later, in the Soul Study, Longzhuan looked at the pill formula covered with writing on the table and smiled slightly. The enlightenment tea was indeed effective. In just 2 days outside, he had successfully researched the essence-inducing pill. The essence-inducing pill's effect was to induce spirit insects into estrus, after which they would lay eggs. Such an effect was extraordinary. As long as there were enough essence-inducing pills, one could have as many top-grade spirit insects as desired, without any side effects. Of course, there were also drawbacks. The biggest drawback was probably the scarcity and high cost of the materials. Due to the limited materials, essence-inducing pills could not be obtained in large quantities. The difficulty in obtaining essence-inducing pills in large quantities meant that it would take him a considerable amount of time to amass tens of thousands of gold-eating insects. However, Longzhuan was already satisfied. He could wait 100 years, or even 1,000 years. He had plenty of patience. He thought for a moment, then suddenly put away the essence-inducing pill formula and took out a piece of white paper. He felt the aphrodisiac pill was still a bit too overpowered, and he was reluctant to hand it over. He decided to research a weaker, abbreviated version. The abbreviated version was less potent, only ensuring that lower-grade spirit insects would lay eggs. Getting top-grade spirit insects to lay eggs would require luck. At this moment, Longzhuan suddenly felt a slight ache in his head, realizing that although he still had 6 days left, plenty of time, researching another pill formula was his limit. Enlightenment tea also had side effects. It could overload the brain, severely damaging mental energy. Therefore, it couldn't be taken frequently, only once every 50 years. His brain was nearing its limit after creating 2 pill formulas, and time was running out. Longzhuan dared not delay, gritted his teeth, and immediately began working on abbreviating the formula. Creating a formula was difficult, but abbreviated formulas were much easier. The abbreviated version of the aphrodisiac pill should waste much of his time. Meanwhile, to his right, Duan Xianwu, who had been keeping his eyes tightly shut, suddenly smiled. Clearly, his research on the pill formula had also succeeded. The pill formula he researched was the inheritance pill. After consuming it, one could directly obtain a certain inheritance, saving a century of arduous learning. Truly heaven-defying. Any heaven-defying pill has its flaws, and the inheritance pill was no exception. Refining it required living people as materials, which was definitely a flaw for righteous goo cultivators. Furthermore, his inheritance pill wasn't perfect. While it could seal a person's inheritance within the pill, it also introduced that person's will into it. Absorbing the wills of many different people was never a good thing. It could very well lead to mental derangement and madness. Even so, this pill could still be considered divine. A 4th-grade inheritance pill could instantly grant a novice the alchemy skills of a 4th-grade alchemist, or the weapon forging skills of a 4th-grade weapon refiner. How could such a pill not be heaven-defying? In the goo realm, it's almost impossible for an alchemist to reach the 4th-grade level before the age of 50. In the past 10,000 years, only 2 exceptions have emerged, the Burning Heaven ancestor and himself. If this pill had appeared in this world earlier, the number of 4th-grade alchemists participating in this alchemy competition would probably be overflowing. Such a heaven-defying pill has severely disrupted the world's balance. He truly couldn't bear to hand it over. After a moment's thought, he didn't open his eyes, preparing to use the remaining time to create another pill formula. His brain was already throbbing. The effects of the enlightenment tea had pushed it to its limit. Researching another pill on par with the inherited pill was clearly impossible, but researching one with a shorter processing time was still feasible. As a demonic cultivator, his first thought was about demonic pills using living people as materials. What was wrong with throwing a goo king into the alchemy furnace and refining his spiritual power into a pill? A goo cultivator in the spirit gathering stage could absorb the spiritual power of a goo king by consuming this pill, instantly becoming a goo king level expert. However, The ultimate price of this forced growth would be a lifetime of stagnant cultivation. Such a demonic pill would be something no talented Gu cultivator would want, but those impoverished rogue cultivators with extremely poor aptitude would absolutely covet. This was a heaven-defying pill that could mass-produce Gu kings for a family. The power that controlled this formula could easily dominate a region. Needless to say, such a formula would be fiercely contested by various powers at all costs. Its value was self-evident. Since the fourth round scoring standard was based on the value of the pill, he truly didn't believe this pill couldn't get the highest score. Duan Xianwu's lips curled into a smile, and he immediately began researching the Gu King pill. That's right, he named this pill Gu King pill. He was too lazy to waste time thinking of a better name. Since he wouldn't be using it himself, he simply chose a name that didn't require much thought. At this moment, to his right, the brows of the burning heaven ancestor relaxed, and a slight smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. After many days of enlightenment, he had finally succeeded in researching the formula for his 100 lifetimes pill. His 100 lifetimes pill could allow a person to recall memories of their past lives. This past life was not limited to one. After consuming the pill, the probability of awakening past life memories was the highest, with a small probability of awakening memories of lives before that, or even lives hundreds of lives ago. However, the more distant the memory, the lower the probability of recalling it. At the same time, all pills have limitations, and the 100 lifetimes pill was no exception. Which memory could be recalled after consuming the 100 lifetimes pill was random, and only a small segment could be extracted. It was impossible to recall the entirety of one's past life. This meant that after consuming the 100 lifetimes pill, the memory recalled might just be a useless daily routine, causing a precious opportunity to be wasted. The reason for this flaw was that the 100 lifetimes pill's grade was too low. A mere 4th grade pill was far from having the immense medicinal power to support the recall of an entire life. To possess such medicinal power, only a 12th grade elixir would suffice. The burning heaven ancestor sighed inwardly. This level of the 100 lifetimes pill truly couldn't satisfy him. But so be it. Since the memories recalled were random and limited, he'd compensate with quantity. He'd consume the 100 lifetimes pill 100 times. He refused to believe that each memory would be merely everyday life. The burning heaven ancestor suddenly frowned again. His previous joy vanished. Despite the 100 lifetimes pill's numerous flaws, its ability to recall past lives was simply too heaven-defying. How could he willingly hand it over? The burning heaven ancestor pondered for a moment, ultimately deciding to hide the 100 lifetimes pill formula and use his spare time to create another one. Since the Enlightenment tea's medicinal power was already mostly used up, making it impossible to create a formula of the same level as the 100 lifetimes pill, he'd use the remaining medicinal power to create a formula that was merely at a certain standard. The burning heaven ancestor pondered for a moment, his worry disappearing, and he quickly came up with an idea. He was a towering demonic cultivator. Naturally, his self-created formula would be a demonic pill based on human beings. He then threw a group of Gu cultivators into a pill refining furnace, mixing their soul power together to create a pill. This pill was called the soul replenishing pill, containing the soul essence of a group of Gu cultivators. Consuming it would increase one's innate soul power. This idea was truly brilliant. An evil smile curled at the corner of the burning heaven ancestor's lips. Although this pill wasn't as heaven-defying as the 100 lifetimes pill, its power to increase innate soul power was still arguably heaven-defying. He refused to believe that with such a heaven-defying pill formula, he couldn't achieve the highest score in this round of the competition. Chapter 401 Long Yuiao's Imagination. June 15, 2024 Author, Xiangkangshan Zhe Shui Wu Bai Nian. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, while the other contestants were still racking their brains to devise pill formulas, Long Yuiao, Feng Shuang, and Wang Wu opened their eyes almost simultaneously. After opening their eyes in perfect unison, a glint of light flashed in their eyes. They exchanged glances, then immediately picked up the paper and pen on the table and began writing down their own pill formulas. Each of them exuded confidence, clearly having grasped something extraordinary. Seeing this, the judges, who had been dozing off, perked up, revealing smiles. They all extended their spiritual power towards the three tabletops, their eyes fixed intently on what the three were writing. Although the three hadn't finished yet, the judges were impatient and didn't want to wait a moment longer. Before long, the judges all wore strange expressions, shaking their heads and smiling wryly. These three had written more than one pill formula. It wasn't hard to see that they had clearly created the formulas using Long Zhuan's pill combining technique. These alchemy methods had only recently emerged, yet they had already mastered them so quickly and applied them so skillfully, truly prodigies. The judges were all astonished. The appearance of the alchemy combination technique caused a sensation throughout the alchemy world. Everyone devoted themselves to its study for a period of time, but very few could successfully refine pills using it. Alchemy combination was incredibly difficult, even these fourth-rank alchemists found it hard to master. Alchemy has a success rate, and the alchemy combination formula required refining more than one type of pill, meaning many gambles on success. Finally, all the pills were combined and refined again, requiring another gamble on success. This step was even more difficult and had an even lower success rate. A single mistake would render all previous efforts futile and waste a massive amount of materials. This nested alchemy method meant the success rate was far more than just halved. Using this method wasted materials and had an absurdly low success rate, so very few dared to use the alchemy combination technique. Even if a genius were to successfully refine the pill, considering the massive amount of materials wasted in previous failed attempts, it would be a net loss. These three geniuses, however, had not only perfectly mastered this incredibly difficult alchemy method, but had even created the formulas for it. This greatly shocked the 100-plus judges, who couldn't help but marvel at their extraordinary talent. Their alchemy abilities were truly once in a millennium. Unfortunately, these three alchemy prodigies were born at the wrong time, in the same era as those three monstrous geniuses. Although the formulas they created using the alchemy combination technique were valuable enough, they were still inferior to those three monstrous geniuses. They were destined to be mere foils to these three prodigies. Long Yuiao, Feng Shuang, and Wang Wu opened their eyes almost simultaneously and finished writing the formulas almost simultaneously. Once the three finished writing the formulas, the judges could no longer contain themselves and eagerly used their spiritual power to guide the formulas to the judges' table. The formulas were immediately circulated among all the judges. Each judge watched with great interest, excitedly offering their comments. Wonderful. Truly wonderful. I never imagined that a pill refined using the alchemy technique would possess such terrifying potency, allowing a Gu cultivator at the early Spirit Sea stage to gain the power of a late Spirit Sea stage cultivator in such a short time. This potency is simply outrageous, a continuous advancement of 2 minor realms. No pill has ever been able to achieve this before. The alchemy technique truly can create miracles. Long Xiao's face flushed with excitement, and he glanced at Long Yuiao with approving eyes. Even he couldn't create such a wonderful pill formula. Princess Yuiao's talent in alchemy had already surpassed his, giving him a sense of the younger generation surpassing the older. Hearing Long Xiao's praise, Long Yuiao raised her head, her eyes filled with pride, like a proud little peacock. However, Feng Xiancheng's voice came at an inopportune moment. HMPH. What a load of rubbish. As the nation's chief alchemist, you only see the advantages of a pill and ignore its flaws. This pill called the restoration pill has far too many flaws. Those who take it only increase their combat power by 2 minor realms for a short time. After that, not only will their realm drop back, but they will also lose a minor realm. It's incredibly difficult for a Gu cultivator to increase their realm by even 1 minor realm. With such a powerful side effect, the value of this pill is naturally greatly reduced. The purple phoenix pill researched by Feng Shuang is far more valuable. The purple phoenix pill can purify the Fen clan's bloodline once. Its only flaw is that the cost is too outrageous, but for those Fen clan geniuses, it's perfectly acceptable. Feng Xiancheng revealed a smug look, not forgetting to put down one and praise the other. Long Xiao's smile vanished, and he retorted, that's a misconception. It's perfectly normal for pills to have side effects. What pill doesn't have side effects? While the rejuvenating pill's side effects are strong, it's a pill that can save your life when facing a powerful enemy. If you're about to lose your life, why would you care about losing a small level? It's no exaggeration to say that the rejuvenating pill is a powerful life-saving pill, and life-saving pills are generally quite valuable on the market. Long Xiaoyao glanced at the pill formula in Feng Xiancheng's hand and scoffed disdainfully, but your purple phoenix pill is different. How? A pill to purify the Fen clan's bloodline. What use is it to Gu cultivators of other surnames? The purple phoenix pill's high value only applies to your Fen clan Gu cultivators. For Gu cultivators of other surnames, its value is greatly reduced. Since this round of the competition is scored based on the value of the pills, then I'm sorry, Long Yuiao and Feng Shuang have been tied for the first 3 rounds. In this round, Long Yuiao will probably be leading by a few points. Upon hearing this, the other judges nodded in deep agreement. Indeed, if everyone present were a member of the Feng clan's Gu cultivation, then this pill, capable of purifying the Feng clan's bloodline, would undoubtedly be of the highest value. However, most of the judges present were Gu cultivators from other clans, and the purple phoenix pill wasn't of high value to them, so naturally, they wouldn't give it a high score. That Feng Shuang wasn't very bright. He actually wanted to create this kind of pill formula himself. What was he thinking? It's a pity. His alchemy talent was clearly no less than Long Yuiao's, but because of his wrong choice, his score would likely be lower. All the judges showed expressions of regret. Long Yuiao looked at Feng Shuang with a smug gaze. At this moment, Feng Shuang's face was somewhat pale. When he created his own pill formula, he was primarily focused on his own benefit and had truly overlooked this issue, leading to a grave mistake. Feng Xiancheng's face turned ashen. He had also just been self-centered, judging the value of a pill formula based on his own needs. However, his expression quickly returned to normal. It doesn't matter if Feng Shuang's score is lower. With Ancestor Fenshin present, Feng Shuang's score is already irrelevant to the Feng clan. As long as Ancestor Fenshin's score is higher than the Long clan's alchemist, then the Feng clan will win this bet. Chapter 402 Duan Xian Wu's Identity Exposed. June 16, 2024. Author, Xiangkangshan Zhe Shui Wu. By Nian. After deliberation by the judges, Long Yuiao scored 92 points, Wang Wu scored 91 points, and Feng Shuang scored the lowest score of 90 points in this round. For the first time, the scores of the 3 geniuses diverged significantly. Sorry, Wang Wu's Emperor Pill, which can increase Imperial Aura, is quite good, but 91 points is still too low. In this round, my Qin clan's genius will be leading your Wang clan's genius by several points again. Qin Shang glanced at Wang Hu, his voice full of smugness. Wang Hu's face showed a hint of embarrassment, but quickly returned to normal. He turned to look at him and said, as expected, your Qin clan really has good methods. To win the bet, you've used every means possible, even daring to collude with a deceitful ancestor. How could my clan's genius possibly defeat the champion of the previous Western region's alchemy competition? Wang Hu took out a honesty gu and placed it on the table, his face dark as he looked at Qin Shang and questioned him. Through observing several matches, he discovered that Qin Dan's alchemy techniques were strikingly similar to those of the infamous deceitful ancestor from 200 years ago. Coincidentally, the deceitful ancestor had just escaped during this period and then vanished without a trace during alchemy. This deepened his suspicions, especially since he had been unable to ascertain Qin Dan's identity for so long. This person seemed to have appeared out of thin air. He was certain that this person was the deceitful ancestor. However, lacking evidence, he could only borrow a trust gu from the Jin clan Chamber of Commerce to test Qin Shang. If the trust gu glowed, then the Wang clan could completely turn the tables today. Colluding with a demon who refines forbidden gu is a serious crime. If this crime were pinned on the Anting Empire, then the Wei Yu Empire would be the winner of this gamble. Upon hearing this explosive news, all the judges turned their attention to him, and the surrounding sounds instantly ceased, the hall becoming so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Many people now showed suspicion. It wasn't just Wang Hu who had doubts, many long-time alchemists had also harbored suspicions. Qin Dan's alchemy techniques indeed didn't resemble those of a third-grade alchemist, and bore a striking resemblance to the legendary eccentric alchemist from 200 years ago. They simply lacked evidence and dared not speak rashly. Now that someone had brought this matter to light, everyone wore expressions of anticipation. Feng Xiancheng's lips curled into a smile. Even the champion of the previous Western region's alchemy competition had come to participate, and another fourth-grade alchemist had appeared. This was getting more and more interesting. For 10,000 years, only the eccentric alchemist and the burning alchemist had been able to become fourth-grade alchemists before the age of 50. This was enough to demonstrate that the eccentric alchemist was the number one alchemist 200 years ago, and the burning alchemist was the number one alchemist of the present day. With these two number one figures facing off, he was genuinely curious to see whose alchemy skills would prevail. He subconsciously ignored Long Zhuan. Bang! Qin Shang slammed his hand heavily on the table, shouting angrily, "Don't you dare talk nonsense! Which eye of yours showed he's the deceitful ancestor? You need evidence to speak." Qin Shuang stood up agitatedly. Their Yanting Empire couldn't afford this accusation. If it were confirmed that the Yanting Empire colluded with a deceitful ancestor, it would incur public wrath and provide many forces with an excuse to wage war. With the Gu Emperor city's order, the Yanting Empire was in danger of collapse. Although he also suspected Qin Dan was the deceitful ancestor, their alchemy techniques were indeed highly similar. He dared not admit it under such serious consequences. Wang Hu looked at the honesty Gu on the table. Seeing that it wasn't glowing, he frowned slightly. Had he guessed wrong? Was this person not the deceitful ancestor, but his disciple, or someone who had accidentally found his inheritance? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Wang Hu immediately ruled out this possibility. He preferred to believe that Qin Shuang truly didn't know Qin Dan was the deceitful ancestor, rather than believe he had mistaken him for someone else. After all, this matter was of great importance, and to avoid any possibility of exposure, the collusion with the deceitful ancestor could only be known to a very small number of people. It was normal that Qin Shuang didn't know. HMPH. Don't think that just because the Qin Emperor didn't tell you about this, you can fool the honesty Gu. What's so difficult about proving this? After the competition, I'll send a group of Gu Kings to test him. You all can be my witnesses. Wang Hu snorted coldly, looking at Qin Dan in the center of the palace, a faint killing intent flashing in his eyes. Even if this person wasn't the deceitful ancestor, he was prepared to kill him during the upcoming test. If he accidentally killed him, what could the Qin family do to him? As long as this person was dead, the gamble between the Radiant Moon Empire and the Flame Court Empire would be won. This was an open scheme, and Qin Shuang couldn't refuse. However, how could Qin Shuang not guess his little scheme? Upon hearing this, he immediately became anxious. He also suspected that Qin Dan was indeed the deceitful ancestor, so how could he dare to let Wang Hu test him? He immediately roared in anger, I disagree. Whether he is or isn't the deceitful ancestor, you can deliberately kill him. Who can I complain to then? With Qin Dan dead, my clan is doomed to lose this bet. You've really got a good plan. Qin Shuang sneered disdainfully. Let's not even talk about whether he is or isn't the deceitful ancestor. Even if he is, so what? Our Yanting Empire was completely unaware. He has his own feet. If he wants to go, how can we control him? If we conclude that our Yanting Empire is colluding with the deceitful ancestor just because he participated in the alchemy competition, that's unfair. I absolutely refuse to accept it. The Xianfang Empire knowingly infiltrated a Burning Heaven ancestor, so our Yanting Empire can also unknowingly infiltrate a deceitful ancestor. What can you do to me? Recalling Feng Xianchang's previous words, Qin Shuang immediately learned them. He grinned and looked at Wang Hu arrogantly. Wang Hu's face darkened. He hadn't expected Qin Shuang to have such a trick up his sleeve. This was the Heavenly Phoenix Empire's explanation. In this way, even if it was proven that Qin Dan was indeed the Burning Heaven ancestor, the blame couldn't be shifted to the Flame Court Empire. Clearly, most people in the Flame Court Empire were unaware. No amount of investigation would be effective unless the person who colluded with the deceitful Heaven ancestor was found, thus truly bringing down the Flame Court Empire. At this moment, a highly respected elder on the judging panel solemnly said, these two matters are completely similar. Either the Heavenly Phoenix Empire and the Flame Court Empire are both guilty, or both are innocent. Let's discuss this matter later. Now that those three prodigies have successfully created the pill formula, nothing is more important than this. The elder smiled slightly, his gaze towards the three filled with anticipation. Hearing this, the judges indeed stopped focusing on this matter and turned their burning gazes to the three, eagerly awaiting the three new pill formulas to be unveiled. Everyone had a premonition that the pill formulas created by these three prodigies would be earth-shattering and would give them a tremendous surprise. Chapter 403 The Demon Core Incites Public Outrage. June 16, 2024 Author, Xiangkangshen Shui Wu by Nian. At this moment, in the center of the main hall, two of the three most eye-catching prodigies opened their eyes. The Burning Heaven Ancestor and Duan Xian Wu opened their eyes almost simultaneously picking up their pens to write pill formulas at lightning speed. However, another prodigy also woke up, but without opening his eyes, remaining closed and resting. He had broken free of his enlightenment state, but this couldn't fool the judges. No one exposed him. Long Zhuan was the fastest to break free of enlightenment, far faster than Long Yuiao and the other two. He had the soul bookstore to cheat with, and in terms of creating his own pill formulas, no one here could match him. However, Although he was the first to wake up, he was cunning, pretending to be still in enlightenment, fast asleep. He was, of course, planning to wait for all his competitors to hand over the pill formulas, and then, after understanding the enemy's situation, submit his own researched formula. He possessed 3 pill formulas: the bone-growing blood-melting pill, the aphrodisiac pill, and a shortened version of the aphrodisiac pill. He needed to observe the quality of his opponents' submitted pill formulas before deciding which formula he should submit to maximize his own advantage. If only the formula for the bone-growing blood-melting pill could surpass theirs, then he would have no choice but to grit his teeth and submit it. When Ancestor Burning Heaven and Duan Xian Wu had already written most of their formulas, Long Zhuan pretended to open his eyes and looked over, instantly scrutinizing their formulas with his heavenly eye. When he saw the words living people prominently displayed in their formulas, Long Zhuan was immediately startled. Good heavens! They were actually using living people to refine pills, even cruelly using Gu Kings. Was it really appropriate to create such a formula in this situation? No one could determine the authenticity of a formula simply by looking at it. Who knew if the formula you created could actually produce a pill? The judges would initially assume the formula was genuine, and after scoring, they would spend a significant amount of time refining the pill to verify its authenticity. If a pill formula has any flaws and cannot be refined, then that round's results will be cancelled. These two have so arrogantly created a formula that uses living people to refine pills. Are they really going to force the judges to kill someone to verify its authenticity? This grand pill refining competition is highly anticipated, with all the forces in the western regions watching closely. The appearance of 2 pill formulas using living people in such a grand competition gave Long Zhuan a premonition that, no matter how extraordinary these formulas were, they would be publicly destroyed. Otherwise, it would generate a huge public outcry that the 10 kingdoms couldn't handle. Through pharmacology, Long Zhuan quickly determined the effects of these 2 formulas and couldn't help but show his astonishment. Good heavens, the formula called Gu King pill could actually turn a spirit-gathering stage Gu cultivator into an early Gu King. It was simply heaven-defying. Although this pill would cost the user the price of a lifetime of stagnant cultivation, and the ingredients were rare and couldn't be mass-produced, for a force, its value was already no less than his aphrodisiac pill. Another pill called the soul-replenishing pill was even more terrifying. It required throwing a bunch of living people into the alchemy furnace, then refining them into the purest soul essence. Consuming the soul-replenishing pill, which contained this soul essence, would increase innate soul power. Until now, Long Zhuan only knew that his soul-nourishing wood could increase innate soul power. He had never seen a second treasure that could do so. Today, he finally had. Long Zhuan clicked his tongue. The soul-replenishing pill's heaven-defying power was no less than his aphrodisiac pill. He slowly revealed a solemn expression. These 2 pills were simply too heaven-defying. He could only guarantee victory by using the bone-growing and blood-melting pill formula. Using the complete aphrodisiac pill formula would at best result in a draw. No, they were refining demonic pills made from living people, which were not favored by righteous alchemists. Those righteous alchemists probably wouldn't give demonic pills the highest score. His abridged version of the aphrodisiac pill formula should be enough. With this thought, Long Zhuan's confidence soared, and he immediately began writing the abridged aphrodisiac pill formula on paper. However, no one was paying attention to him anymore. When the judges saw the words living person written in large characters on both pill formulas, their faces turned grim. They weren't afraid to use some demonic power as long as the profit was high, but it had to be done secretly, not openly. This was a pill refining competition watched by thousands. If the organizers dared to include pill formulas involving murder in their collection in front of everyone, their reputation would be ruined. They might even be labeled as part of the demonic cultivation faction and attacked by various forces that wanted to kill and plunder but couldn't find a pretext. Qin Shang shook his head and said with a wry smile, "What a pity. These 2 pill formulas are truly terrifying. One can rapidly increase the number of Gu Kings in a faction, and the other can greatly increase innate soul power. They are the favorites of all alchemists. To be honest, these 2 pill formulas are incredibly tempting, but why are they demonic pills? Tisk tisk, relying on hunting Gu Kings to rapidly increase the number of Gu Kings in a faction. Whoever possesses such a demonic pill will be attacked by everyone." Long Xiao's face darkened, and he slammed his hand heavily on the table, angrily saying, "These 2 old devils actually dared to create demonic pills at the competition. How arrogant. Do you know the consequences if these 2 pill formulas are leaked? Once the Goo King pill formula is leaked, countless factions will kill Goo Kings to refine pills. At that time, the number of Goo Kings in various places will inevitably decrease significantly, and the western regions will be filled with slaughter, plunging into chaos. These two pill formulas must be destroyed in public and must not be leaked. We must all erase this part of our memories, otherwise the consequences will be unimaginable. Upon hearing this, all the judges' expressions turned solemn, realizing the gravity of the situation. Yes, these two demonic pill formulas absolutely cannot be kept. What about this round of the competition? Are we going to disqualify these two old demons? A righteous female judge exclaimed angrily. Feng Xiancheng shook his head and sighed. Disqualifying a participant requires a reason. The competition rules don't say they can't refine demonic pills. They haven't violated any rules. You should understand why Ancestor Fenshin came to participate in this alchemy competition. If we disqualify him, he'll definitely throw a tantrum. Who among us can rival Ancestor Fenshin? If we don't want to ruin this alchemy competition and be ridiculed by the world, we absolutely cannot act recklessly. Our heavenly Phoenix City's prison has a vast number of death row inmates. Prove the two pill formulas are genuine and give them a score. Feng Xiancheng was hoping Ancestor Fenshin would win the competition, so how could he agree to disqualify him? He immediately voiced his opposition. However, his explanation was plausible, and thanks to his sophistry, no one raised the issue of disqualifying the two from the competition. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 404 This Child Must Not Be Allowed to Live. June 17, 2024 Author, Xiangkangshenze Shui Wu Bai Nian. The judges no longer paid attention to the two old demons, but focused their attention on Long Zhuan, their eyes filled with anticipation. The 10 great empires had offered massive rewards for this alchemy competition, which was enough to attract most of the alchemists from the western regions. These rewards were meant to recoup costs. Collecting the pills refined by the alchemists was only a small part. The most valuable prizes were the pill formulas created by genius alchemists in the fourth round. A heaven-defying pill formula could elevate the strength of an entire faction by a significant margin. The pill formulas of the two old demons were clearly unusable, and no one dared to use them. They could only place their last hope on Long Zhuan. Long Zhuan certainly didn't disappoint them. As he wrote more and more, the judge's eyes grew brighter and brighter. Even before he finished writing the formula, the judges had already roughly determined its effects based on pharmacology. The heaven-defying effects of this pill formula undoubtedly made all the judges' eyes light up with excitement. It's actually an elixir that can induce spirit insects to lay eggs. It seems to have some effect even on top-grade spirit insects. It's truly heaven-defying. If top-grade spirit insects can reproduce rapidly by consuming elixirs, what difficulty is there in refining top-grade goo worms? This elixir is incredibly practical. It's enough to elevate the strength of an entire force by more than one level, an old man on the judging panel exclaimed excitedly. An elixir that can rapidly reproduce top-grade spirit insects is truly unheard of. This is the first time I've ever seen one. This Western region's alchemy competition was indeed well worth the effort. The profits from this single elixir formula are enough to compensate for the resources consumed in hosting the competition, a female judge said, her breathing rapid and her eyes shining. Tisk tisk, a mere third-grade alchemist has actually created a fourth-grade pill formula. Truly heaven-defying. Most importantly, this pill won't cause any side effects on spirit insects. This is something those two demonic pill formulas lack. The side effects of those two demonic pill formulas are enormous. They can't be taken multiple times. For this reason alone, the value of this pill should surpass those two demonic pill formulas. The most respected elder stroked his beard, his face flushed. Long Xiao's lips curled into a smile. With these words from the elder, the game was in his grasp. His heart, which had been pounding, finally settled. Long Xiao also breathed a sigh of relief, relaxing her tense little hands, her gaze towards Long Zhuan filled with complex emotions. The burning heaven ancestor's face was ashen. He had lost another round, and consecutively to Junior. How could he, with his proud spirit, accept this? HMPH. Do they look down on demonic pills? How dare you give me a low score for this? I'll scatter these two demonic pill formulas all over the streets and see how you clean up the mess." The burning heaven ancestor sneered inwardly, angrily flung his sleeves and left. Before the judges could even announce the scores, he was already gone. His already written pill formula remained on the table, unclaimed. It was clearly a heaven-defying formula, yet it received a cold shoulder here. Duan Xianwu shook his head. Judging from the judges' reactions and conversations, he understood that the tide had turned. His score could never surpass Long Zhuan's. "Your friend is truly remarkable. He's the first person to have defeated me in the field of alchemy, and he's defeated me several times in a row. If he knew my identity, he'd have plenty to brag about," he said to Soul in his mind. "I told you not to underestimate him. You should have brought out the inheritance pill formula earlier. It would have attracted a lightning tribulation, guaranteeing a win," the little medicine boy said disdainfully. HMPH. That's a pill formula that can attract lightning tribulation. Pill formulas that can attract lightning tribulation are so rare in this world they're practically extinct. If I bring it out in this kind of situation, such a heaven-defying pill formula will become commonplace. How can I accept that? Submitting the pill formula is impossible, but submitting the pill itself is no problem. Next, I'll prepare to collect the materials for the inheritance pill and refine it in the finals. I refuse to believe that I can't beat that kid even if I refine a pill strong enough to attract lightning tribulation. Duan Xianwu looked at Long Zhuan, his eyes blazing with fighting spirit. "What, you're finally not going to hold back and are preparing to refine a 4th grade pill?" the little medicine boy teased. "I have to refine a 4th grade pill. The total score gap between me and him is too large. If I refine a 3rd grade pill, I'll definitely lose. He forced me to do this." Duan Xianwu smiled bitterly and turned to leave the hall. Now that he knew the result, he had no interest in staying any longer. Not long after the two left, the judges' discussion finally came to a conclusion. The final score was 94 points for Long Zhuan, while Burning Heaven Ancestor and Qin Dan tied for 93 points. As expected, Long Zhuan once again pulled ahead in this round. Although it was only by 1 point, not a huge margin, considering the total score, he now had a 4-point lead over the second highest scorer. A 4-point gap was enormous. Only the final match remained, and closing that 4-point gap in the final game was incredibly difficult. At this moment, Long Xiaoyao excitedly stroked his beard, confident that he had a bet against the Feng clan in the bag. He felt as if he had become much younger, and he subconsciously glanced triumphantly at Feng Xiancheng. As expected, Feng Xiancheng's face was ashen, his gaze fixed on Long Zhuan. He sighed inwardly. "Luckily, I didn't gamble with Long Xiaoyao again, otherwise I would have lost again. This kid is truly damn strange. He managed to win against 2 4th-grade alchemists. How did he do it?" He wiped the cold sweat from his brow, a lingering fear gripping his heart. As a mere 3rd-grade alchemist, he actually managed to gain a 4-point lead over both the Burning Heaven Ancestor and the Deceitful Heaven Ancestor. This kid is truly defying the heavens. No, this kid must not be allowed to live. With such a freak around, the Feng family can no longer be assured of victory in this gamble. Feng Xiangxiang had made his decision, and his ferocious expression finally returned to normal. Although the scores for the 3 had been given, they weren't announced by the judges. This was because the competition wasn't over yet, and most of the participants were still deep in thought. Furthermore, the effects of the pill formulas needed to be verified, and the final scores would be adjusted based on the experimental results. After Long Zhuan finished writing his pill formula, it was snatched away by the quick-witted Long Xiaoyao, who treasured it carefully. This was the original manuscript of a heaven-defying pill formula, possessing significant commemorative and collectible value. Thousands or tens of thousands of years later, the original manuscript of such a heaven-defying pill formula would be priceless. His created pill formula was treasured and kept, but the pill formulas of the Burning Heaven Ancestor and the Deceitful Heaven Ancestor were different. They were directly burned by 2 balls of flame flying from the judges' seats, along with the 2 tables. Chapter 405 The Final Round of Rules. June 17, 2024 Author, Xiangkangshan Zhe Shui Wu Bai Nian. After putting away the pill formula, Long Xiaoyao immediately looked at Long Zhuan and transmitted his voice through his soul. "Long Zhuan, well done. You've gained another point in this round, widening the gap to 4 points over Ancestor Fen Dan. The next round is the final. Even if you lose to your opponent by 3 points in the final, the championship is still yours." At this point, Long Xiaoyao's face showed an excited smile again. He stroked his beard and continued, Next, I'll tell you about the rules of the final round. There are no rules for the final round. You can refine any kind of pill in the final. The higher the value of the pill you refine, the higher your score, so in this final round, you must refine your best pill. You absolutely cannot hold back. I know you have heavenly fire. You can refine water spirit mushroom to 100% purity. Only heavenly fire can do that. Don't hide this heavenly fire anymore. If you win this round, the Dragon Soaring Empire will give you an extremely generous reward, and they will even tattoo a dragon on your body. A dragon tattoo is the highest honor of the Dragon Clan, and every genius who gets one will be forever recorded in the clan's history. Hearing about getting a dragon tattoo again, Long Zhuan's lips twitched slightly, but he still nodded earnestly and said, "Don't worry, senior, I will do my best." Long Zhuan sighed inwardly. He knew that with a 4-point lead, even if Ancestor Burning Heaven and Duan Xianwu didn't want to refine 4th-grade pills, they would have no choice but to do so. Not refining 4th-grade pills meant certain defeat. They were forced into this situation. Once these two opponents refined 4th-grade pills, he would have to use his clone to refine pills beyond his level to compete, forcing him to show off once more. As for what pill he would refine in the final round, he had already made up his mind, the bone-growing blood-melting pill, which he had just created. The bone-growing blood-melting pill was, to date, the most valuable pill he possessed, without exception, even surpassing the heaven-defying pill. His next task was to gather all the ingredients for the bone-growing blood-melting pill formula as quickly as possible. It was obvious that the competition organizers couldn't possibly have all the ingredients for the heaven-defying pill formula. How could they possibly possess those spirit herbs exceeding the 10th grade? Even if the organizers could gather all the ingredients, Long Zhuan wasn't going to trouble them. Giving the ingredients to the organizers to collect would be like revealing the formula to them, something he absolutely refused to do. This was a unique formula powerful enough to attract lightning tribulation. He had to keep it strictly secret. The ingredients for the bone-growing blood-melting pill formula were undoubtedly difficult to collect, but Long Zhuan felt he could gather them all in a very short time. Because Xianfeng City was now full of high-level alchemists, and alchemists were the group most fond of collecting spirit herbs. Currently, Xianfeng City held several alchemist trade fairs every day. Under these circumstances, it was entirely possible to gather all the ingredients for the bone-growing blood-melting pill formula. Thinking of this, Long Zhuan didn't want to waste any more time and prepared to immediately return to collect the ingredients. The 4th round of the competition was only halfway through, and who knew how long the other contestants would have to rack their brains to figure it out? He didn't want to waste any more time waiting. Thinking this, Long Zhuan got up, ready to leave. However, just then, a man rushed in from outside, shouting in alarm, "Something terrible has happened. The Burning Heaven Ancestor has scattered those 2 demon pill formulas all over the streets. Everyone's going crazy fighting over them. The whole city is in chaos." "What? Holy crap!" In an instant, all the judges stood up, utterly shocked. Ignoring the chaos outside, Long Zhuan returned to the inn and ordered his various clones to collect the materials from the formulas. He wasn't just collecting the materials for the bone-growing blood-melting pill, he also wanted to collect the materials for the aphrodisiac pill. He wanted to rapidly build up the gold-eating insects into a massive, overwhelming swarm attack. He was eagerly anticipating it. 4 days later, Long Zhuan stared at the materials on the table, his face filled with excitement. Things were going as he expected. In this place teeming with alchemists, gathering all the ingredients for a pill formula was indeed not difficult. He didn't need to bother collecting the main ingredient for the bone-growing and blood-melting pill, as he happened to possess it. Since the bone-growing and blood-melting pill could create a human body out of thin air, Long Zhuan immediately thought of living wood, which resembled a human. So, when creating his own formula, he simply used living wood as a reference, and it actually worked. This heaven-defying elixir that could create a physical body truly required living wood as its material, and the living wood itself played a crucial role, requiring a significant amount. If Nezha was an incarnation of lotus root, then after consuming the bone-growing and blood-melting pill, the water elder would become an incarnation of living wood. This would inevitably lead to an unavoidable weakness. Wood fears fire, and a body created from living wood would be extremely vulnerable to fire. In the future, Gu cultivators skilled in using fire will be the nemesis of Elder Shui, which is undoubtedly a fatal weakness. Even heaven-defying pills have limitations. This is the law of nature. After painfully chopping off a third of the living tree's branches, Long Zhuan finally gathered all the materials for one batch of the bone-growing and blood-melting pill. He prepared these materials, placing them separately in a storage ring, and then poured out another pile of materials. This pile contained the materials for the aphrodisiac pill. Counting them, he found only 100 portions. Long Zhuan frowned deeply. These were the materials for the complete aphrodisiac pill, unlike the abridged version. All the materials were extremely rare, but he hadn't expected them to be this rare. In this place teeming with alchemists, he had only collected 100 portions of the complete aphrodisiac pill materials. The difficulty of collecting the aphrodisiac pill materials far exceeded his expectations. This was in a place where alchemists were everywhere. If he left this place and went elsewhere, he would likely struggle to collect even a few portions of the aphrodisiac pill materials. Long Zhuan sighed. A full set of 10 arousal pills was enough, and even with the rare, heaven-defying spirit insects laying only one egg at a time, even if he used all his materials efficiently, he could only refine 1,000 arousal pills, producing 1,000 gold-eating insects. 1,000 gold-eating insects seemed far too few to him. He wanted to become an insect demon, able to unleash hundreds of thousands, even millions, of insect clouds with a wave of his hand to devour any opponent. 1,000 gold-eating insects were far from enough to deter powerful enemies. Moreover, the materials for gold-eating insects weren't all spiritual herbs. The most difficult material to collect was 4th-grade ink dragon poison. Dragon-type spirit beasts were notoriously difficult to deal with, and ink dragon poison was practically impossible to collect in many regions. Furthermore, the repairing goo, a high-level item, would require a very long time to accumulate to a certain scale. His goal of developing a gold-eating insect population of hundreds of thousands was destined to take a very, very long time. Long Zhuan was anxious at this moment, but he could only patiently wait. Chapter 406 The God of Gamblers appears. June 18, 2024 Author, Xiang Kangshan, handsome for another 500 years. Just then, a chaotic fight broke out outside. Long Zhuan's expression changed, and he immediately put away all the spiritual herbs and placed a goo hut on the ground. Things hadn't been peaceful lately. Fierce battles were frequently heard outside, and several goo kings were mysteriously disappearing from the city every now and then. However, this time the fighting was closest to the inn, so Long Zhuan immediately became vigilant, preparing to move away through the goo hut if things went wrong. Not long after, the fighting outside stopped, and Long Zhuan finally breathed a sigh of relief, pushing open the door and going outside. What happened? What's going on? As soon as he stepped out of the inn, Long Zhuan asked the people outside. What else could it be? That damned old ancestor burning heaven scattered the demon pill formulas everywhere. Now everyone has learned them, and there are quite a few killing king goo to refine pills. We don't even know how many goo kings have mysteriously disappeared in the city. This fight is probably another goo king being assassinated by some ruthless villain. Someone else shook their head, saying gravely, it doesn't seem like it. Several goo kings of the Feng clan died over there, and their bodies weren't taken away. It doesn't seem like someone killed king goo to refine pills. Perhaps the Feng clan has some big plan. But who did it? The killing speed was so fast, a group of goo kings were dealt with in the blink of an eye. I don't know. Recently, there have been murders everywhere in the city. Not only goo kings have mysteriously disappeared, but also a huge number of spirit C-stage goo cultivators. Many people have already started capturing spirit C-stage goo to refine pills. The Feng clan is overwhelmed dealing with these things. Maybe they're here to investigate some case, Alice. These are turbulent times. With the goo king pill formulas flooding the market, endless killings will surely erupt everywhere. The western regions are about to change. Oh my. Ancestor burning heaven has truly committed a sin. Hearing the murmurs of the crowd, Long Zhuan frowned. The one who died was actually the goo king of the Phoenix clan, and he appeared so close to him. What was the purpose in being here? Could it be? Long Zhuan's hair stood on end. He quickly returned to the inn, disappeared into the goo hut. Meanwhile, in a secret chamber, a disheveled man pushed open the door and entered. Looking at the old man in the room, he bowed respectfully and said, Sir, the operation failed. 5 of our men died, and only 5 returned alive. Feng Xiancheng's face slowly darkened. Finally, unable to contain his anger any longer, he slammed his hand on the table and roared, a bunch of good-for-nothings. 5 were instantly killed as soon as they arrived. They went fast and came back even faster, After the Burning Heaven ancestor killed 10 of the Dragon Clan's Gu Kings, there aren't many left. Are you all pigs? You can't even handle such a simple task. Faced with Feng Xianchang's roar, the man didn't dare breathe. After Feng Xianchang vented his anger, the man finally lowered his voice and hesitated, saying, "It seems the one who attacked us wasn't a Dragon Clan Gu King. They shouldn't have that kind of fighting power. This person attacked us remotely with fire. Although I didn't see him, I strongly suspect he is the Burning Heaven ancestor. Only the Burning Heaven ancestor could instantly kill 5 of my Feng Clan's Gu Kings." The man looked up, cautiously observing Feng Xianchang. Hearing this, Feng Xianchang finally calmed down, frowning slightly. After a moment of silence, he asked, "Why would he do this?" The man hesitated for a moment, then said tentatively, "Perhaps he wants to defeat his opponent fairly on the field." Feng Xianchang's face instantly contorted with rage, and he angrily swept everything on the table to the ground, the sound of shattering porcelain echoing. "Damn it, a traitor! This Burning Heaven ancestor is going to ruin my clan's great cause." Meanwhile, in another secret chamber, after the 4th round of the competition concluded that day, Qin Shuang immediately dragged his weary body into the chamber, eagerly taking out a mirror from his stored ring. Soon, the figure of a valiant man appeared in the mirror. Before the man could speak, Qin Shuang impatiently asked, "Emperor Qin, you must tell me, is that Qin Dan the deceitful heaven ancestor? Are you hiding something from me?" Qin Shuang's voice was urgent, his expression full of anxiety. Hearing this, Emperor Qin was stunned. "Qin Dan is the deceitful ancestor? Where did you get this information?" "I don't know Qin Dan. Qin Wei has investigated for a long time, but hasn't been able to find out anything about him. I don't know Qin Dan's identity, but since there are rumors that he's the deceitful ancestor, it can't be entirely baseless." The Emperor Qin slowly revealed a solemn expression. The name deceitful ancestor forced him to take it seriously. Seeing that the Emperor Qin's puzzled expression didn't seem feigned, Qin Shuang was also stunned. The Emperor Qin was completely unaware of this matter. If even the Emperor Qin was unaware, then this shouldn't be an arrangement by the Qin royal family. Wait, could this be Qin Minun's own arrangement? After all, he participated in the mission to annihilate the deceitful ancestor, and only he had the opportunity to contact him. Could the two of them have really made some kind of shady deal? Qin Shuang was startled and his expression immediately changed. Damn it! Qin Minun is playing with fire. His actions could drag the Yanting Empire into an endless abyss. He's gone mad. Qin Shuang's face was ashen. He suddenly clenched his fists and hurriedly shouted, "Emperor Qin! Quickly contact Qin Minun. I suspect he really did collude with the deceitful ancestor on his own initiative." At this moment, Emperor Qin frowned deeply, realizing the gravity of the situation. Regardless of whether Qin Minun was acting on his orders, if Qin Minun's collusion with the deceitful ancestor was confirmed, the Yanting Empire would inevitably be implicated, and might even face collapse. Sigh. No need to ask any more. After returning from the mission to annihilate the deceitful ancestor, his behavior was very abnormal, and he was unclear about some aspects of the mission. This matter is most likely true, but in any case, since he has already done it, there is no way to undo it. The arrow is on the string and must be released. We can only follow him to the end and cover this up for him at all costs. You should understand how serious the consequences will be for our clan if this matter is exposed. Qin Wang looked at him deeply, and without much thought, he immediately made a decision. Qin Shuang frowned deeply, and after a long while, he finally sighed and said helplessly, "So be it. It's too late to remedy the situation. In any case, let's make sure the deceitful ancestor wins this competition first. The deceitful ancestor is a 4th-grade alchemist. With him, our clan is sure to win this bet with the Radiant Moon Empire." Qin Shuang clenched his fist, and his gaze became firm. The next day, just as dawn was breaking, the streets, which had been sparsely populated, quickly became crowded, and Xianfeng City became lively again. This was the day of the Western region's alchemy competition finals, so the streets were exceptionally crowded. The area around the central square, in particular, was packed with people early on, a cacophony of noise and heads as far as the eye could see. The finals were to be held in the central square, where everyone could watch. The finals were undoubtedly the most thrilling, and no one wanted to miss them. Many people got up early, even skipping breakfast, just to grab a good spot near the front. In the crowd, an old man with the word gambling embroidered on his clothes stroked his beard and laughed. There are so many people. The more people, the better. The more people, the more I earn. He turned to look at another old man beside him, whose clothes also had the word gambling embroidered on them, and asked with a smile, "How's the matter I asked you to do?" The old man respectfully replied, "Lord Gambling God, as you instructed, we spread the news that Feng Jiayu is the burning heaven ancestor and Qin Dian is the deceitful heaven ancestor." Sure enough, after hearing that two of the contestants are fourth-grade alchemists, no one thinks that Long Zhuan, a third-grade alchemist, can win. Almost everyone bets on either the burning heaven ancestor or the deceitful heaven ancestor to win. Very few people bet on Long Zhuan to win. There are about 10 merchant guilds running betting operations. I also bet all my spirit stones on Long Zhuan as you instructed, about 500 billion. If Long Zhuan really wins, we'll make a fortune. The old man frowned deeply. Even he felt that Long Zhuan was destined to lose. The rules of the finals were based on who could refine the most valuable pill, and how could a third-grade pill possibly be more valuable than a fourth-grade pill? Long Zhuan was indeed leading by 4 points, but as a third-grade alchemist, he could only refine third-grade pills. That 4-point gap could easily be closed by a fourth-grade pill. Unless Long Zhuan could refine a fourth-grade pill in the finals, he was doomed to lose. He truly couldn't understand why the god of gamblers would bet all his spirit stones on this seemingly insurmountable opponent. Finally, unable to suppress his doubts, he frowned and asked, "Lord Gambler, the alchemy talents of Ancestor Burning Heaven and Ancestor Deceiving Heaven are unparalleled throughout history. If the competition rules are completely unrestricted, it's possible that these two could refine pills powerful enough to attract lightning tribulations. How can Long Zhuan, a mere third-grade alchemist, possibly win? He's destined to lose unless he advances to a fourth-grade alchemist. Otherwise, he'll undoubtedly lose no matter what third-grade pills he refines. Isn't it too risky for us to bet so many spirit stones on him alone?" The god of gamblers shook his head and laughed. "I am the god of gamblers, the best at gambling. When have you ever seen the god of gamblers lose? Don't worry, I always win. Right now, almost everyone is betting on those two fourth-grade alchemists to win, but I'm betting on Long Zhuan. Betting on the unpopular is the most profitable. If Long Zhuan wins, I'll become rich overnight." A smile played on the god of gamblers' lips. Over countless millennia, he had accumulated wealth enough to rival 100 kingdoms. Even winning countless spirit stones wouldn't stir any emotion within him. His reason for gambling wasn't to earn more spirit stones, but simply to enjoy the thrill of gambling. The old man then realized that this was the god of gamblers, who always won. The god of gamblers could never lose a bet, so his doubts lessened, but he still frowned deeply and hesitated, saying, "The god of gamblers always wins. I believe him, but why is he so confident in Long Zhuan? Forgive my poor eyesight, but I really can't see any possibility of him winning." The god of gamblers looked towards the plaza, his smile fading, and sighed, "Winning every bet is a bit of an exaggeration. I've dominated the gambling world for countless years, and I've still lost 3 times. 2 of those losses were to the same person. Do you think someone who can even beat me, the god of gamblers, would lose to someone else?" The god of gamblers' gaze deepened. Could that person be? This Long Zhuan is the one who beat the god of gamblers twice in a row. The old man immediately showed shock. "Let's go. I'm getting more and more excited for the upcoming match. It's bound to be exciting. To be honest, I'm also curious to know how he'll win." The god of gamblers smiled and strode forward. Chapter 407 The Dragon Clan's Conspiracy. June 18, 2024. Author, Xiang Kangshan, handsome for another 500 years. At this moment, Feng Xiancheng and the other chief alchemists from various countries greeted him with smiles. "God of gamblers, please come up." Feng Xiancheng, at the head of the group, gestured for the god of gamblers to proceed. Without hesitation, the god of gamblers walked to the head of the platform. This scene astonished the crowd below, and soon a murmur of discussion arose. Who is that person? He has such influence that even Feng Xiancheng and other top alchemists from various countries personally came down to greet him and seated him in the first seat. "I don't know, I've never seen him before. He must be some big shot who appeared out of nowhere." Feng Xiancheng calls him the god of gamblers. The god of gamblers, the god of gamblers. Could that goo worm that can gamble on the fate of 2 races be his creation? Most likely. Did you see Feng Xiancheng trying to curry favor with him? Tisk tisk. The ability to gamble on everything is truly heaven-defying. The combat power of someone possessing this goo must be heaven-defying. I wonder who would prevail against either the burning heaven ancestor or the deceitful heaven ancestor. Behind the crowd, Long Zhuan was startled as he looked at the familiar figure. It was the god of gamblers. He hadn't expected him to come. Of course, the Dragon Alliance and the Phoenix Alliance were gambling on their fates, as were the Flame Court Empire and the Radiant Moon Empire. This matter required the god of gamblers Gu. How could he not show up? Long Zhuan frowned deeply. He was extremely wary of this person and genuinely didn't want to see him. Long Zhuan, you're here quite early. I thought you'd be the last one to arrive. Seeing Long Zhuan, Long Yuiao walked over with a smile and greeted him. In the end, I couldn't maintain my composure during the finals, so I came out early. Long Zhuan glanced at her, then looked towards the god of gamblers. Long Yuiao followed his gaze and, upon seeing the god of gamblers, her expression immediately turned serious. This is the god of gamblers who possesses the god of gamblers Gu. The god of gamblers Gu is the most powerful Gu I've ever seen. It can be used to gamble on everything, including a person's lifespan, luck, aptitude, and so on. Our clan used the power of this Gu to gamble on the clan's fate with the Fen clan. The losing side would give the other half of their clan's fate. If half of the clan's fate is lost, there is a high possibility of the clan's demise. The fate of the Long clan will now rest entirely in your hands. You must do your best, Long Yuiao said solemnly. I will do my best, Long Zhuan nodded, then looked in another direction. Feng Jiayu and Qin Dan came side by side. It was no secret that one was the burning heaven ancestor and the deceitful heaven ancestor. Therefore, upon seeing these two old demons approaching, the crowd's expressions changed drastically, and they hurriedly made way. The originally throng of people cleared a wide path as the two appeared together. Let's go too. Since there was a path, Long Zhuan immediately went over, and Long Yuiao, being a bold person, also headed in that direction. Following behind the two, Long Zhuan and Long Yuiao easily passed through the sea of people and reached the square. The two's conspicuous appearance in the square also aroused excited discussions among the people below. Isn't it Long Zhuan, currently number 1 in total score? Tisk, so young, he's Long Zhuan? The one who created the great cauldron pill refining technique and the alchemy technique? These two pill refining techniques caused a sensation throughout the entire pill refining world and are still talked about today. This kid is truly a genius. I would call his pill refining talent the greatest of all time, Alice. It's a pity he was unlucky, running into two 4th grade pill refiners, Ancestor Burning Heaven and Ancestor Deceiving Heaven. No matter how monstrous he is, as a 3rd grade pill refiner, how could he possibly win? Long Zhuan ignored the discussions of the crowd below, separated from Long Yuiao, and walked towards the throne of number 1 in total score. 10 contestants advanced to the finals, and the seats were arranged in a row, ordered by total score. Long Zhuan sat in the first position on the far left. Long Yuiao, who was sitting to the right of the god of gamblers on the high platform, looked at the two walking side by side into the square, and smiled slightly. He thought to himself, they really are a perfect match. The two most outstanding pill refining geniuses of the Long clan are really suitable to be together. Long Zhuan's alchemy talent might even surpass that of the Burning Heaven Ancestor and the Deceitful Heaven Ancestor. The Dragon Soaring Empire absolutely cannot let such a genius slip through its fingers. Long Yuiao's smile widened, and he turned to Feng Xiancheng, saying, Brother Xiancheng, how about we bet again? I'll give you another chance to recoup your losses. Feng Xiancheng turned to look at him, his gaze dark, and sneered, I really don't know where your confidence comes from. Even at this point, you still think you can win? Feng Xiancheng's fingers tapped incessantly on the table. According to the intelligence he had gathered, after leaving the 4th round, the Burning Heaven Ancestor and the Deceitful Heaven Ancestor had been frantically collecting materials in the city. The materials they collected were all the rarest 4th grade spiritual herbs, and even included heaven-defying spiritual herbs exceeding 10th grade. This indicated that the two would definitely refine extremely powerful 4th grade pills in the finals. If the two old demons refined ordinary 4th grade pills, Long Zhuan might be able to win due to his 4-point lead. But if the two demons refined extremely powerful 4th grade pills, then Long Zhuan, a 3rd grade alchemist, had no chance of winning. He truly didn't know where Long Yuiao's confidence came from. Even if he could secure a victory in this round, Feng Xiancheng didn't intend to gamble anymore. He'd been certain of victory in the previous 4 rounds, and what had happened? This kid was simply too unpredictable, always managing to break through what ordinary people couldn't. His intuition told him that this round wouldn't be a sure win either. Because he had lost so many times, he wouldn't feel confident of victory in any subsequent match, no matter how certain he was. That's why he arranged the assassination attempt the night before, which unfortunately failed. Having already lost so many times, Feng Xiancheng decisively shook his head and said, "Forget it, I've lost all my gu worms. I have no more capital to gamble with you. You should go find someone else." Hearing this, Long Xiaoyao showed disappointment. Others would become more eager to gamble the more they lost, but Feng Xiancheng had become increasingly timid, leaving him with no more opportunities to make money. "Fine, since you're timid, then forget it. Consider it a lucky escape." Long Xiaoyao looked listlessly towards the square. Since he dared to propose a bet, he must have been extremely confident in this final match. It wasn't that he was confident in Long Zhuan's alchemy skills, nor would he blindly believe that a third-grade alchemist could definitely defeat a fourth-grade alchemist. It was entirely because he had a backup plan. For the Long clan, a 4-point lead was more than enough. Although the Long clan alliance hadn't yet mastered the technology to transport Gu Kings using the Suogu, the special huts created by the Suogu could teleport Gu Kings. Some Long clan Gu Kings had already sent special huts to the Gu Emperor city. If Long Zhuan could create a miracle in the finals, fine. If not, the Long clan would simply overturn the table and teleport a large number of law enforcement special huts from the Gu Emperor city. Once the Gu Kings from the Gu Emperor city appeared in Xianfeng city, they would inevitably launch a siege against the two old demons. Once the war started, the finals of the alchemy competition would be impossible to continue. In that case, there would be no points in the finals, only the total score of the first 4 rounds. Naturally, Long Zhuan, with a 4-point lead, would be the overall winner. Perhaps there was another possibility. Although the finals were interrupted, an overtime round would be held after discussion among the judges. Even if that happened, it wouldn't matter. At this point, those two old demons would either have been killed by the powerful figures of Guhuang City or driven away. How could they possibly stay and continue the competition? Either way, the Long family was guaranteed to win. Long Xiaoyao revealed a sinister smile. Unfortunately, the only drawback was that Feng Xiancheng hadn't fallen for the trap, which was truly a pity. Long Xiaoyao turned his gaze to Feng Xiancheng again. Chapter 408 The competition begins. June 19, 2024 Author, Xiangkangshan Zhe Shui Wu. By Nian time slowly passed, and soon, the 10 finalists arrived one after another. Each contestant found their assigned seat and began to close their eyes to rest, adjusting their mind to its optimal state. The surrounding crowd grew larger and larger, and the noise increased, turning the plaza into a bustling marketplace. Dong! Finally, with a loud bell ringing, the plaza fell silent. All the onlookers stopped talking, their eyes excitedly fixed on the 10 people in the center of the plaza. The most attention was focused on Long Zhuan, the burning heaven ancestor, and the deceitful heaven ancestor. The vast number of Long clan Gu cultivators watching all focused their gaze on Long Zhuan, their fists clenched, their expressions tense. Clearly, all the Long clan Gu cultivators regarded him as the hope of their entire clan. The tolling of the bell echoed through the crowd for a long time. After the bell faded, Feng Xiancheng finally stood up, looked around, and said in a deep voice, "Today is the final round of the Western region's alchemy competition. After rigorous selection, only 10 people have successfully entered the finals. These 10 can almost be called the most talented alchemists in the entire Western regions. After this alchemy competition, you will be worthy of being labeled as the top 10 alchemy geniuses of the Western regions. Compared to the rewards for being among the top 10 in the alchemy competition, I think this title is the most important thing to you." Feng Xiancheng looked at the 10 geniuses and said with a smile. Upon hearing this, the geniuses in the square indeed showed excitement. Long Yueyao, Feng Shuang, and Wang Wu all proudly raised their heads, revealing their pride. Long Zhuan, Old Ancestor Fenchen, and Old Ancestor Qishan were very calm, their faces expressionless. Especially Long Zhuan, the title of one of the top 10 alchemy geniuses of the Western regions, did not stir his emotions. He did not care about such fame at all. In his view, a resounding reputation wasn't necessarily a good thing. In the Gu world, keeping a low profile was the safest approach. Exposing oneself to the sunlight would ultimately lead to being burdened by one's fame. Feng Xiancheng withdrew his gaze and continued, "It's my honor to personally preside over such a high-level alchemy competition. I won't waste any more words. Participants in this round can refine any type of pill. The judging panel will score them based on the pill's value. Materials can be your own or obtained from the organizers. Now, let the competition officially begin. As soon as he finished speaking, a burst of excited cheers erupted from the crowd below. Long Zhuan was also awakened by the surrounding cheers, finally opening his eyes and murmuring, "It's finally starting? This next battle will probably require all my skills." He took the heavenly gold alchemy furnace from his storage ring and placed it heavily on the floor tiles in front of him. He didn't immediately begin refining pills, first glancing at old ancestor Fen Yuan and Duan Xianwu out of the corner of his eye. Duan Xianwu acted first, heavily placing a massive cyan alchemy furnace on the floor tiles. The moment the furnace hit, the tiles began to crack, slowly revealing a dense network of fissures, demonstrating the furnace's immense weight. Duan Xianwu then slightly opened the furnace lid, inserting a finger adorned with a stored ring. One after another, spiritual herbs flew out from the ring and landed steadily in the furnace. With this method, no one could possibly know what herbs he had added, much less the formula for the pill. This was the best he could do to maintain secrecy. At this moment, the judges all showed expressions of disappointment, secretly sighing at his cunning. Everyone could see that Duan Xianwu was definitely going to refine a heaven-defying pill, but now it seemed the formula for such a pill was clearly not something he could obtain for free. After placing the elixir into the alchemy furnace, Duan Xianwu withdrew his finger, and the heavy furnace lid closed again. A ball of golden flame suddenly ignited beneath the furnace, releasing intense heat. Upon this eruption, the alchemical flames released by the other contestants flickered wildly, as if blown by a breeze, and soon went out, eliciting gasps of surprise from the entire audience. Golden flames! What kind of fire is this? It has such terrifying power, it seems to be heavenly fire. Legend has it that when heavenly fire appears, all other fires are extinguished. I didn't believe it before, but now it seems the legend is true. Tisk tisk, with heavenly fire appearing, the other contestants probably won't even be able to refine pills. It's truly unexpected to see the legendary heavenly fire in this pill refining competition. This flame, on the high platform, Wang Hu looked shocked and exclaimed in astonishment, could this be the Imperial Tomb Golden Fire, ranked 20th on the Heavenly Fire ranking? Qin Shang looked solemn and said seriously, golden flames, radiating a kingly aura, burning without gold, this should be the fire. I didn't expect that the deceitful ancestor could even subdue the Imperial Tomb Golden Fire. A heavenly fire rank so high is beyond the reach of a Gu King. Long Xiaoyao frowned, pondered for a moment, and then said solemnly, I heard that he improved a little strong Gu, allowing him to transplant powerful organs from other races into his body. His body is already beyond human capabilities. With such a powerful physique, I wouldn't be surprised if he devoured the 10th ranked heavenly fire. He, the god of gamblers, seated at the head of the table, laughed. It seems Duan Xianwu has been forced into a corner, even revealing such a trump card, the Imperial Tomb Golden Fire, which cannot burn without gold. With such a flame in hand, I'm afraid no spiritual weapon in the world can harm him, making him even more difficult to deal with. At this moment, the alchemical fires of the contestants on the plaza were extinguished under the suppression of the heavenly fire. They had no choice but to run to the edge of the plaza with grim faces, setting up array plates to isolate the heavenly fire from the influence of the other spiritual fires. The greatest characteristic of the heavenly fire is its heat. The high temperature it generates is far beyond what a normal Gu cultivator can withstand. Now, with the heavenly fire unleashed, a deadly high temperature was generated, instantly turning the plaza into a furnace. Even those contestants who hid far away were drenched in sweat, unable to concentrate on alchemy. The scorching heat baked the earth, and the onlookers all showed expressions of pain, retreating frantically like a tide. At this moment, the only ones unaffected were probably Long Zhuan and the Burning Heaven ancestor. Long Zhuan's body refining technique was unique, requiring him to frequently swim in magma and bathe in heavenly fire. He was already accustomed to the heat, and this temperature was child's play for him. Although he was sitting closest to Duan Xianwu, at the very center of the intense heat, he seemed completely unaffected. The other unaffected person was the Burning Heaven ancestor. He snorted coldly and finally took out a black alchemy furnace, inserting his finger, which had a storage ring, into it. After placing spiritual herbs inside, he finally released his heavenly fire. Soon, the 9 netherworld fire, ranked 31st, emerged. The 9 heavens bright moon fire, ranked 29th, emerged. The extinction of life flame, ranked 25th, emerged. The 3 great heavenly fires burned the bottom of the alchemy furnace, causing the temperature in the arena to rise sharply again. Both the contestants in the plaza and the spectators around were suffering terribly. Long Zhuan had now confirmed that the two of them would be refining fourth-grade pills, so he dared not hold back any longer. Gritting his teeth, he prepared to refine a fourth-grade pill as well. Not wanting to be left out, he imitated the others, inserting his finger, which bore the storage ring, into the alchemy furnace. After releasing the elixir, he withdrew his finger and unleashed the sunset divine flame, a technique he had never displayed before. The moment the sunset divine flame appeared, the temperature in the plaza soared to an alarming level. At this moment, 5 celestial flames simultaneously appeared in the plaza. How terrifying would the combined heat of these 5 flames be? The plaza was now like a hellish inferno. The paving stones were red-hot and cracked. The other contestants suffered terribly, barely managing to survive, and had no heart for alchemy. The onlookers suffered heatstroke, collapsing in large numbers. The survivors, their faces filled with terror, desperately retreated. Damn it! You guys want to kill people? Stop. People are going to die? Chaos erupted in the crowd. Ha ha ha. That's exhilarating. Heavenly flames are incredibly rare. I didn't even see one during the Western region's alchemy competition last time. I never expected to be fortunate enough to witness all 5 heavenly flames appearing together today. Let's fight to our heart's content today. Duan Xianwu laughed wildly, his eyes gleaming with excitement as he looked at the two, his fighting spirit soaring. The burning heaven ancestor glanced at the imperial mausoleum golden flame under Duan Xianwu's furnace, then at the sunset divine flame under Long Zhuan's furnace. A faint killing intent flashed in his eyes, but quickly disappeared. Long Zhuan could use his split soul to multitask, simultaneously refining pills and using his X-ray vision to secretly learn the two's heaven-defying pill formulas. Therefore, although this killing intent was fleeting, he still noticed it with his keen senses. Long Zhuan was immediately startled. It wasn't hard to see that the burning heaven ancestor wasn't targeting him, but rather the heavenly flames under the two's furnaces. The burning heaven ancestor already possessed 3 heavenly flames, yet he still coveted others' heavenly flames, truly insatiable. Could he have a heavenly flame collecting fetish? Or perhaps he possessed an ability or technique to grow stronger by devouring heavenly flames? Long Zhuan thought with alarm, becoming increasingly vigilant. He had already decided that after refining the pills, he would leave his clone here to receive the prize, while his main body would tear up the 100-mile talisman and flee. Facing such a terrifying figure, he dared not harbor any illusions, and he absolutely could not spare this 100-mile talisman. On the high platform, the judges were also suffering from the heat, but fortunately, as fourth-grade alchemists, they had extremely high resistance to high temperatures, and under the protection of the barrier, they did not have to flee in a panic. It's actually the Sunset Divine Flame, rank 28th. Interesting. 5 heavenly flames appearing simultaneously. This competition is getting more and more exciting. The god of gamblers showed great interest, watching with great interest. He was the only person on the high platform unaffected by the high temperature of the heavenly flames. Truly rare indeed. Heavenly fire is a sight to behold. As the nation's chief alchemist, I've lived most of my life and never even seen a single heavenly fire. To witness 5 of them simultaneously today is truly awe-inspiring. I can die without regrets. On the judges' panel, an old man, witnessing the 5 flames appearing together, was moved to tears. How? The scene created by the gathering of 5 heavenly fires is truly terrifying. The current temperature is merely the beginning, just warming up the furnace. The temperature will rise higher and higher, not only scorching the onlookers but also affecting the entire city. The other contestants will lose all interest in alchemy. It seems we have no choice but to intervene. Feng Xianchang smiled wryly. Without any visible movement, 3 cylindrical barriers suddenly appeared, enveloping Long Zhuan, the burning heaven ancestor, and the deceitful heaven ancestor. A square barrier then enveloped the entire plaza. Under this double protection, the intense heat generated by the heavenly fire was largely contained. The surrounding onlookers finally breathed a sigh of relief, collapsing to the ground, panting heavily. The lingering fear in his eyes hadn't faded. How? They're all quite cunning. They even stuck their fingers with storage rings into the alchemy furnace, making it impossible for us to see what spiritual herbs they threw in. Ancestor burning heaven and ancestor deceiving heaven must be refining 4th grade pills. Did you even see what spiritual herbs Long Zhuan threw into the furnace? How come I sense the aura of 4th grade spiritual herbs? Is it just my imagination? Qin Shang frowned, suddenly asking hesitantly. 4th grade spiritual herbs. How is that possible? A 3rd grade alchemist like him can't possibly refine 4th grade pills. This joke isn't funny at all. Even the most heaven-defying person can't defy the heavens to this extent. Does he want to ascend to heaven? A female judge shook her head in disbelief, jokingly. However, her smile quickly froze, her eyes widening as she stared at Long Zhuan. There, Long Zhuan sat cross-legged on the ground, suddenly creating 5 clones that completely surrounded the enormous alchemy furnace before him. The 5 clones sat evenly, each controlling a ball of sunset divine flame, making a total of 6 sunset divine flames burning at the bottom of the alchemy furnace. What is he doing? Why did he release his clones? Is he going to create another unique alchemy method? The judges frowned, their faces showing confusion, completely baffled by Long Zhuan's strange actions. When they sensed the energy fluctuations of a 4th grade pill emanating from the furnace, everyone's eyes widened, their expressions changing drastically. Holy crap! This is the aura of a 4th grade pill. This kid really wants to refine 4th grade pills. How is that possible? He's clearly a 3rd grade alchemist, refining pills beyond his level. He's going to use that unique alchemy method to refine pills beyond his level. Hiss. Refining pills beyond his level. Holy crap. Is this kid really going to defy the heavens? A clamor erupted from the judges' seats. Seeing this scene, the judges were all greatly shocked and stood up in unison. These powerful figures, whose mere presence could shake the entire nation, seemed to have witnessed something utterly terrifying, their expressions horrified and their demeanor utterly disoriented. The entire audience was in an uproar. After a brief moment of complete silence, the god of gamblers burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. Refining pills beyond one's level. Truly unprecedented. This kid is defying the heavens. He certainly didn't disappoint me. I knew he could create a miracle. I've bet all my spirit stones on him. I'm going to wipe him out. Ha ha ha. Feng Xiancheng was also startled, standing up in disbelief at the sight. He clenched his fists, his expression instantly becoming incredibly ferocious. He knew it, this kid was a freak. Even in a seemingly certain victory, he could become a variable. Not killing him was absolutely not safe. Feng Xiancheng clenched his fists, lost in thought for a long time. His premonition was right, and not betting with Long Xiaoyao was also the right thing to do. This kid had indeed created another miracle in this round. This was a huge problem. At this moment, the ominous feeling in his heart grew stronger. Could this kid really defeat 2 4th grade alchemists? Despair began to creep into his eyes. At this moment, Long Xiaoyao was completely dumbfounded. He had never expected that this outstanding junior could refine pills beyond his level. Could he be any more heaven-defying? Which member of the Long clan gave birth to such a freak? The Long clan had truly produced a talent this time. He swallowed hard, unable to recover for a long time. Refining pills beyond one's level. Duan Xianwu turned his head and looked down at him, laughing loudly, as expected of a genius whose comprehension is no less than mine. You actually managed to create such a heaven-defying pill refining method. This competition is getting more and more interesting. I really don't believe that I, as the former champion of the Western region's pill refining competition, can lose to a junior like you? Let's see who's better. After speaking, he turned his head and began to focus all his attention on the batch of pills in front of him, but his eyes were much more serious than before. Ancestor Burning Heaven glanced at Long Zhuan with a solemn look before quickly turning his gaze back. However, the flames beneath his furnace trembled slightly, indicating that he was far from at peace. Chapter 409 Scores. June 21, 2024. Author, Xiangkangshan Zhe Shui Wu Bai Ni and the other contestants, protected by a barrier that insulated the temperature and eliminated the influence of the heavenly fire on their spiritual fire, finally breathed a sigh of relief and prepared to begin refining pills. However, upon witnessing Long Zhuan's heaven-defying actions, they were stunned, exchanging bitter glances. What's the point of refining pills now? He's already able to refine 4th grade pills beyond his level. Competing against this monster's talent was a foolish act on their part, and a tragedy for the pill refining geniuses of this era. Born in the same era as him, even the most talented would be overshadowed. All the pill refining geniuses of this era would become his foils, including the Burning Heaven ancestor and the deceitful Heaven ancestor, who would likely be unable to escape the fate of becoming his stepping stones to fame. The entire arena was thrown into a frenzy by Long Zhuan's actions, everyone discussing it incessantly, their expressions incredibly excited. Refining pills beyond one's level, this had never happened before, yet today they had witnessed it. The alchemy competition was absolutely spectacular. Witnessing this historic moment filled everyone with excitement, and they all secretly rejoiced that their trip hadn't been in vain. They'd have plenty to brag about back home. In the arena, Long Zhuan ignored the frenzied discussions around him, distracted by secretly learning the two patriarchs' alchemy formulas while observing the extraordinary nature of their concoctions. The pills refined by these two old demons were undoubtedly incredibly powerful, and Long Zhuan felt a surge of excitement. He felt that just learning these two formulas alone had made the trip worthwhile. It was no exaggeration to say that the value of these two formulas probably surpassed the prize for winning the competition. The prizes for this alchemy competition were very generous, with the top 100 participants receiving substantial rewards. The champion, in particular, would receive treasures from various countries, enough to make his hands ache. However, most of these treasures were useless to Long Zhuan. In his eyes, those miscellaneous items were far less valuable than these two formulas. After secretly learning the two formulas, Long Zhuan withdrew his attention and focused on alchemy. At this moment, he already knew in his heart that the pills refined by these two old demons were probably inferior to his own. Although their pill formulas were extremely heaven-defying, one pill could instantly learn a legacy, and the other could awaken memories of a past life. They were simply outrageously powerful. In terms of sheer power, these two pills were indeed no less powerful than his bone-growing and blood-melting pill. But unfortunately, these two didn't have his cheat code, so their pill formulas weren't perfect, with many flaws, especially the proportions of the ingredients, which they couldn't achieve perfectly. This resulted in the pill formulas created by these two old demons having many negative effects and significant side effects. Unlike his bone-growing and blood-melting pill, which only had the side effect of fear of fire, and this was a natural law, an unavoidable side effect. In terms of sheer power, the three pill formulas were evenly matched, but in terms of perfection, the pill formula he created using his cheat code was flawless, far surpassing the two. Therefore, he was certain to win this round. Long Zhuan's lips curled into a confident smile. He slowly closed his eyes and began to concentrate fully on refining this batch of pills. The noise gradually subsided, and time seemed to stand still. Everyone held their breath, their eyes glued to Long Zhuan. Despite being mere spectators, their hearts were pounding with tension. The judges, especially, who hadn't yet sat down, breathed heavily, their faces flushed with excitement, their eyes fixed on Long Zhuan and his 5 clones. A third-grade alchemist refining a fourth-grade spirit pill was simply too shocking, too heaven-defying, a miracle in the alchemy world. Such an incredible alchemy technique would undoubtedly shake the entire alchemy community, and everyone was tempted to steal it, hoping to learn it from the observation. The judges didn't dare blink, afraid of missing a single detail. Time slowly passed. Alchemy was tedious and monotonous, yet no one left. Before they knew it, a day had gone by. Long Yueyao, Feng Shuang, and Wang Wu had already successfully completed the pills, while the others were still a little slower. Long Zhuan, the Burning Heaven Ancestor, and the Deceiving Heaven Ancestor were refining fourth-grade pills, and extremely powerful ones at that. Therefore, their refining time would be very long, naturally slower than Long Yueyao and her companions. The time required to refine a fourth-grade pill is not fixed, it varies depending on the amount of materials, their extraordinary nature, and even the refiner. However, even a fourth-grade pill requiring less time to refine is difficult to complete within a single day. Long Zhuan's bone-growing and blood-melting pill was truly too extraordinary. If someone else were to refine it, even at their fastest pace, it would take half a month, or even a month. However, Long Zhuan used his split soul to refine the pill, making his refining speed extremely fast. While it was impossible to finish in a day, it wouldn't take very long either. Like Long Zhuan, the Burning Heaven Ancestor, and the Deceiving Heaven Ancestor, Long Yueyao and her companions were using a pill formula they created themselves in the 4th round. This formula, created in the 4th round, was an extraordinary formula using the alchemy of combining pills technique. It wasn't a 4th-grade spiritual pill, but it surpassed it in quality. No 3rd-grade spiritual herb could be more miraculous than a pill refined using the alchemy technique formula, so all three chose this formula for the final competition. Ultimately, after deliberation by the judges, Long Yueyao's rejuvenating spirit pill, which could cause a spirit C-stage Gu cultivator to rapidly increase their cultivation level by 2 minor realms in a short time, received an exceptionally high score of 92. A gasp of astonishment erupted from the audience. This was a score only a 4th grade pill should have received. Everyone secretly marveled at how exciting this alchemy competition was, with so many extraordinary talents emerging. Feng Shuang's purple phoenix pill, which could enhance the Phoenix clan's bloodline, received 91 points. Wang Wu's emperor pill, which could increase imperial aura, also received an exceptionally high score of 91. All 3 pills produced were worthy of 4th grade pills, quickly causing a stir and a chorus of exclamations throughout the audience. However, despite receiving such high scores, the 3 were now sullen. None showing any excitement. Everything is subject to comparison. Their pills, in previous Western region alchemy competitions, would have been enough to astound the entire audience and attract all the attention. However, in this alchemy competition, it was nothing special. Their pills couldn't even crack the top 3. Moreover, their high scores were only due to stealing their competitors' alchemy methods, a mere imitation, ultimately an inferior achievement. What was there for them to be excited about? The 3 ahead of them overshadowed them, making them mere supporting characters. These 3 were the true protagonists of the day, the focus of the entire event. Especially that genius named Long Zhuan. He was simply a freak. Even the most outstanding geniuses of this era paled in comparison. I'll take a day off. I won't be able to update today. I can only guarantee 1 day off this month. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 410 Condensing Pill. 3 days passed in a flash. By this time, apart from Long Zhuan, the Burning Heaven Ancestor, and the Deceitful Heaven Ancestor, all the other contestants had finished refining their pills and left. Among them, Long Yuiao's score of 92 was the highest. Those after Feng Shuang and Wang Wu didn't even reach 90. Pill refining was tedious and lacked any visual appeal, yet the 3 days hadn't reduced the number of onlookers. On the contrary, their numbers had only increased. Everyone stared intently at the 3, showing no impatience. Especially the terrifying young man refining pills beyond his level, attracting the attention of most of the crowd. Everyone pointed and whispered among themselves. Finally, on this day, the long silent square stirred. The Deceitful Heaven Ancestor opened his eyes first and shouted, "Condense!" The flames under the pill furnace instantly intensified at this shout, drawing the attention of everyone watching, their faces filled with excitement. Even those unfamiliar with this subject knew that the Deceitful Heaven Ancestor had begun condensing the pill. Once condensation was complete, the pill would be finished. After such a long wait, the climax had finally arrived. The judges on the platform sat up straight, leaning forward, their eyes filled with anticipation. As soon as the Deceitful Ancestor finished speaking, the Burning Heaven Ancestor, not to be outdone, suddenly opened his eyes and roared, "Condense!" With his shout, the fire beneath his alchemy furnace intensified instantly. Their voices rang out one after the other, and unsurprisingly, the pills were formed at the same time. Both were giving it their all, vying to be the first to complete their pills. Soon after, a fierce wind suddenly arose, and the once clear sky darkened abruptly. Dark clouds had appeared without warning, gathering in the sky without any prior indication. Driven by the gale, the clouds moved rapidly through the air, as if the end of the world had arrived, unleashing boundless divine power. The onlookers looked up, their faces filled with horror. This is an anomaly, an anomaly. It's actually an anomaly caused by the birth of a heaven-defying elixir. The elixir they refined can actually attract such an anomaly. Tisk. Elixirs that can attract anomalies are truly rare. I wonder what kind of medicinal effects the two of them have, that they can attract such a terrifying anomaly. These dark clouds stretch for 800 miles, what a huge commotion. I'm now very curious about what kind of heaven-defying elixir they're refining. It's truly something to look forward to. The onlookers below the dark clouds all showed excited expressions, discussing animatedly. At this moment, when the Deceitful Ancestor and the Burning Ancestor were condensing their elixirs, both of them attracted anomalies. The dark clouds attracted by the Deceitful Ancestor occupied the left side of the sky, while the dark clouds attracted by the Burning Ancestor occupied the right side of the sky. The two dark clouds intersected and were locked in a struggle. Just as everyone was excitedly discussing the matter, a sudden change occurred. The previously chaotic dark clouds suddenly erupted with deafening thunder. In an instant, The dense clouds began to swarm with lightning, blinding flashes of lightning covering every corner. Each bolt of lightning reflected a blinding red light, weaving a red net of lightning that enveloped the clusters of dark clouds. Each cloud released a chilling power, as if something terrifying was about to descend. Under the intense light of the lightning, the pale faces of those below were also reflected red. The deceitful ancestor and the burning ancestor both stared at the sky with frantic expressions. Upon seeing this terrifying scene, the judges' expressions changed drastically, and they immediately stood up. It's red lightning. Red lightning. Could it be the legendary annihilation lightning? I've read that annihilation lightning is red. This must be it without a doubt, Long Xiaoyao exclaimed in shock. It's almost certainly true. I've heard that overly powerful elixirs are forbidden by heaven and earth. If such an elixir is born, heaven will surely send down a tribulation of lightning to destroy it. However, I've lived for over 1,000 years and have never seen it with my own eyes. I thought the rumors were wrong, but I never imagined that it's true that overpowered elixirs can attract tribulation of lightning. Today, I'm fortunate enough to witness such a sight. I can die without regrets. On the judges' panel, an old man was extremely excited, his voice trembling. Tisk, I never thought these two could refine an elixir powerful enough to attract tribulation of lightning. They are truly monstrous talents. Even if the formula for such an overpowered elixir still exists, it cannot be refined due to the lack of essential ingredients. This must be a formula created by the two of them. People who can create overpowered elixir formulas are rare even in our era. Looking at the sky where red lightning snakes danced wildly, the god of gamblers also showed a rare expression of shock, slightly losing his composure. How? Red lightning? So this is the 10th ranked annihilation lightning of the 10 great tribulations? Since Ancestor Burning Heaven can refine such a heaven-defying elixir, it's estimated that Long Zhuan, a mere third-grade alchemist, will have a hard time surpassing it. Feng Xiancheng's lips curled up, revealing a hint of smugness, but his expression quickly froze. His gaze was fixed on the dark clouds in the sky. He suddenly sensed something above the clouds, something even more terrifying, containing an even more chilling and awe-inspiring energy. Below, streaks of red lightning seemed to have encountered something terrifying, darting around wildly, but ultimately unable to escape the fate of being swallowed up. To everyone's astonishment, the red tribulation clouds that had just seemed like the end of the world were instantly swallowed up by a white tribulation cloud. The lightning surging through this cloud was white, the white light dazzling, the rolling thunder deafening. The surging white lightning wove a net of lightning on the surface of the cloud, making the pale faces of the people below appear even paler. This tribulation cloud was even larger, vast and boundless, stretching for thousands of miles, its impact far-reaching. Such a massive commotion not only shocked the entire city, but also alarmed cities and forces in extremely distant places. Countless people rushed out, their eyes wide with shock as they gazed at the sky. At this moment, a large area was shrouded in dark clouds, blocking out the sunlight, plunging the earth into darkness, as if it were the end of the world, alarming countless people. The Burning Heaven ancestor, who had just been displaying a crazed expression, froze, utterly dumbfounded, as his red tribulation cloud was instantly swallowed by a white one. How is this possible? The deceitful heaven ancestor was also completely unsettled, his expression filled with disbelief. My tribulation cloud was actually swallowed up. What a joke. Could this be the legendary reincarnation lightning? The god of gamblers, too, was now in a state of shock, staring at the sky filled with white lightning, finally standing up in astonishment. White lightning, there's no mistake, this should be the rebirth lightning, ranked 9th on the thunder tribulation ranking recorded in the ancient books. This kid is just a third-grade alchemist, yet he actually refined an elixir that can attract the 9th thunder tribulation rebirth lightning. Are you kidding me? Feng Xiancheng stared at the sky with bloodshot eyes, almost spitting out a mouthful of blood. Could this kid be any more heaven-defying? Chapter 411 Chaos. June 21, 2024. Author, Xiangkangshen Shui Wu by Nian. Reincarnation Thunder. Reincarnation Thunder. This is actually the legendary reincarnation thunder? Ha ha ha. As expected of the alchemy genius of my Long clan, so heaven-defying, it's probably unprecedented in the entire history. This time, the Long clan is determined to win the alchemy competition. I concede. Ha ha ha. Long Xiaoyao, beaming, cupped his hands to those around him, unable to contain himself any longer, and burst into wild, excited laughter. The Long Clan Gu cultivators watching also clenched their fists in excitement, then joined in the laughter. Their long-held tension finally eased. They understood that their Long Clan was destined to win this gamble against the Feng Clan. Even the clueless Xiao Bei in the crowd finally understood what had happened. Someone had actually refined an elixir that attracted the legendary 9th-ranked reincarnation Thunder. This terrifying news was like a thunderclap from a clear sky. Everyone was shocked. The massive crowd of onlookers, their faces flushed with excitement, frantically discussed the event with those around them. The appearance of the reincarnation lightning caused a frenzy among the crowd, with most people losing their senses in their excitement. However, many quickly regained their composure, as if suddenly realizing something, their faces paling as they desperately pushed their way out of the crowd. That was a heavenly tribulation. The power of a heavenly tribulation was terrifying. Even the 10th-ranked annihilation lightning was enough to destroy everything in heaven and earth, let alone the higher-ranked reincarnation lightning. Watching the reincarnation lightning descend at close range was a death sentence. Of course, this was also because a heavenly tribulation hadn't occurred for so long. Many ignorant people didn't even know what a heavenly tribulation was, let alone its terror. How could Feng Xiancheng be ignorant of heavenly tribulations? The Western region's alchemy competition had been held countless times over tens of thousands of years, and not a single participant had ever produced an elixir that attracted a heavenly tribulation, not even once. Who could have imagined that in this year's competition, someone would produce an elixir powerful enough to attract a heavenly tribulation, and 3 of them at that? This was a disaster. He had never imagined that anyone could attract a tribulation lightning during the alchemy competition, so he subconsciously arranged the competition venue in the Imperial City. Previously, all the Western region's alchemy competitions had also been held in the imperial cities of various countries. This arrangement itself wasn't a problem, but if someone attracted a tribulation lightning during the competition, the trouble would be immense. The power of a tribulation lightning was terrifying. What could withstand its bombardment? If the tribulation lightning descended upon the imperial city, it could very well be destroyed. Holding the finals in the imperial city was practically suicidal. Thinking of this, Feng Xiancheng's face turned pale, and he quickly shouted with a ferocious expression, "Quickly activate the city's protective array. Activate all the arrays throughout the city, don't hold back on spirit stones, damn it. This is a huge problem." Feng Xiancheng glared fiercely at Long Zhuan, his expression suddenly hardening, and immediately charged towards him. He couldn't let the lightning tribulation descend today, no matter what. This was the 9th-ranked reincarnation lightning, and he wasn't confident that the city's protective formation could withstand its impact. He wanted to kill someone to stop it, but Long Xiaoyao, standing nearby, wouldn't allow it. He immediately intervened and blocked him, sneering, "What, you're about to lose, so you want to flip the table and act like a scoundrel? If you can't handle losing, don't play. Even if you kill someone in front of everyone, how will your Feng clan gain respect?" Feng Xiancheng was stopped and became extremely anxious. He had already lost 10 of his natal Gu worms, and now he was no match for Long Xiaoyao. It was impossible for him to bypass Long Xiaoyao's blockade and kill Long Zhuan. Damn it. Get out of my way. That's reincarnation lightning. Do you know how terrifying its power is? Once it strikes this densely populated area, people will die. Feng Xiancheng roared like a madman. The fight between the two finally woke up the crowd from their frenzy. Many people regained their senses and finally realized something. Their expressions changed, and they frantically ran away. Not good. Run, damn it, run. How dare you watch the lightning tribulation? Are you courting death? The crowd was in complete chaos, everyone pale-faced, running out like madmen. It wasn't just the onlookers, people throughout the city, witnessing this terrifying scene, realized something was wrong and frantically fled the city gates, plunging the entire city into chaos. The crowd had lost all their earlier excitement, they practically had 4 legs, running for their lives towards the city's edge. Damn it. Something terrible has happened. The Gu Kings on the high platform also suppressed their excitement, their expressions turning grave. Looking at the dark clouds filled with white lightning, their accumulated power growing increasingly terrifying, everyone's faces darkened. Even the judges on the high platform were conflicted, unsure whether to leave. The power of the reincarnation lightning was far beyond what a Gu King could withstand. How could they not be afraid? Finally, some cowards prioritized their lives, disregarding their dignity, jumping off the high platform and running away. Once someone takes the lead, others will follow. Seeing someone start, the goo kings on the platform jumped down and disappeared in an instant. They dared not linger, staying would be suicide. Of course, some were bolder, they hid further away, their eyes burning as they watched the plaza, their expressions incredibly excited, ready to witness this once-in-a-millennium spectacle. Curiosity killed the cat, and many shared this sentiment. The burning heaven ancestor and the deceiving heaven ancestor stared solemnly at the sky, exchanging a bitter glance. So what if he was the number one alchemist? So what if he was the number one alchemist 200 years ago? At this moment, these two titans of the alchemy world had become mere foils to Junior. They had lost to a mere third-grade alchemist, and lost 4 rounds in a row, their total score now far behind. Both felt their faces burning with shame. Seeing the heavenly tribulation about to descend, despite their extremely grave expressions, they did not immediately flee. It wasn't that they were overconfident in their own strength. Even though the red tribulation clouds they had attracted were frustratingly swallowed up by the white tribulation clouds. But every advantage has its disadvantage. Although the tribulation had disappeared, the pills inside the alchemy furnace hadn't. The disappearance of the tribulation was actually a good thing for them. Without the interference of the terrifying tribulation, they could completely refine this batch of pills. There was still some time before the pills were finished, and if they left, the heaven-defying elixir they were about to refine would be ruined. Of course, they couldn't just abandon this batch of pills and leave. They simply couldn't bear to part with such a heaven-defying elixir. They gritted their teeth and could only persevere. They had to know that the seeding in the finals was arranged according to the total score ranking. The two old demons' total scores were closest to Long Zhuan's, so they were Long Zhuan's neighbors, sitting right next to him. Once the tribulation descended, their situation would be extremely dangerous. Chapter 412 The Shock Caused by the Goo Robbery. Long Zhuan stared blankly at the sky. He knew that the pill he had refined was likely to attract a lightning tribulation, but he never expected it to attract the reincarnation lightning. He suddenly realized that he had greatly underestimated the heaven-defying power of the bone-growing and blood-melting pill, which had also disrupted his plans. Since this pill could attract the 9th-ranked reincarnation lightning, the Calamity Goo could use it to complete its second transformation. Long Zhuan gritted his teeth. Fortune favors the bold. To devour the reincarnation lightning, which was much stronger than the annihilation lightning, he had no choice but to risk everything. At this moment, he finally took out the great Calamity Goo. As soon as the Calamity Goo appeared, its eyes were fixed on the sky, staring greedily at the white lightning snakes darting around. What is this thing? The appearance of the Calamity Goo also attracted the attention of everyone present. Everyone looked at this strangely shaped goo worm with surprise. Both the burning heaven ancestor and the deceiving heaven ancestor seemed lost in thought. There was no time for them to ponder further. As soon as the Calamity Goo appeared, the reincarnation lightning in the sky seemed to be provoked, and thunder roared. A white bolt of lightning, as thick as a bowl, finally descended, crashing heavily against the alchemy furnace below. Under the lightning's illumination, Long Zhuan's face turned deathly pale. He gritted his teeth, suppressing the urge to flee. The reincarnation lightning descended, and the protective array of Xianfeng City offered no protection whatsoever. The 9 barriers shattered instantly, and the reincarnation lightning pierced through them, heading straight for the alchemy furnace in the plaza. However, the protective array of a nation's imperial city was no small matter. Although it failed to completely block the reincarnation lightning, it greatly weakened its power. Taking advantage of the greatly reduced power of the reincarnation lightning, the Calamity Goo immediately rushed forward, transforming into a lightning serpent, and collided heavily with the falling lightning. Boom! The tribulation goo collided with the reincarnation lightning, sending bolts of lightning flying in all directions and creating a deafening roar. The burning heaven ancestor and the deceiving heaven ancestor felt their eardrums go numb, and then they were sent flying backwards, their 2 alchemy furnaces overturned and sent flying a great distance. The 2 furnaces of pills were clearly ruined by such interference. The group of Goo Kings who had been boldly observing were also knocked to the ground, screaming in agony, blood flowing from their ears and mouths, their faces contorted in pain. Some were even struck by the overflowing lightning, their skulls pierced, killing them instantly. Even though they were far away, they were still affected, their ears feeling as if they didn't belong to them under the immense sound. Everyone was horrified. Was this the power of the lightning tribulation? It was terrifying beyond belief. Now, they dared not remain and watch, realizing the horror of the heavenly tribulation, and fled in terror. After being blasted away and crashing to the ground, Ancestor Burning Heaven and Ancestor Deceiving Heaven wiped the blood from their mouths, exchanged a solemn glance, and immediately fled. The terrifying power of the reincarnation lightning was unbearable even for these two top-tier experts. Even Long Zhuan, with his immortal body, coughed up blood and was severely injured in an instant after the lightning tribulation struck. The residual power of the reincarnation lightning was unbearable even for a Gu King, let alone a mere spirit C-stage Gu cultivator like him. Long Zhuan showed fear and dared not linger. He left his clones to continue guarding the furnace while he immediately tore up the 100-mile talisman and fled. As for why he didn't use the Gu Hut, it was because the Gu Hut couldn't teleport instantly. Ancestor Burning Heaven had designs on his heavenly fire, and his soul power was locked on him. He was afraid that if he took out the Gu Hut, Ancestor Burning Heaven would intervene to stop his escape. His original plan was to run away immediately after refining the pills. Because of the Burning Heaven Ancestor, even if he could withstand the heavenly tribulation, he would still use the 100-mile talisman to escape. Seeing Long Zhuan's true form suddenly disappear, the Burning Heaven Ancestor frowned slightly, closed his eyes, and scanned the surrounding area with his soul power. Finding no trace of him, he finally opened his eyes. HMPH, good thing you ran fast. The tribulation continued. After the first lightning bolt was successfully blocked by the tribulation Gu, a second lightning bolt quickly descended from the sky, this one even thicker. The tribulation Gu, excited, charged forward again, only to be blasted away once more, crashing through countless buildings and weakening itself further. However, every beginning is difficult. The first wave of lightning was weakened by the city's protective array, allowing the tribulation Gu to successfully devour it. The tribulation Gu itself possessed extremely high resistance to lightning tribulations, and after successfully devouring the reincarnation lightning, its resistance increased even further. While the power of the lightning tribulations seemed to increase, the first lightning bolt posed the greatest threat to the tribulation Gu. Once it successfully devoured the first lightning bolt, surviving the subsequent ones would be much easier. Long Zhuan fled immediately because he saw the tribulation Gu successfully devour the first lightning bolt, knowing its tribulation was secure, and there was no need for him to remain. Soon, a third lightning bolt descended, this one even thicker than the previous two. However, as the tribulation lightning intensified, so too did the tribulation Gu. After successfully devouring the second tribulation lightning, the tribulation Gu's power increased, making it easy for it to withstand the third. The tribulation Gu and the descending tribulation lightning collided once more, causing the entire earth to tremble violently. The two bolts of lightning clashed, their light scattering in all directions, and vast swathes of buildings were devastated, reduced to ruins. No matter how solid an object was, anything touched by the reincarnation lightning turned to dust. The entire central plaza had vanished under the ravages of the tribulation lightning, and the nearby high platform was riddled with holes, with many surrounding buildings collapsed. The center of Xianfeng City resembled the apocalypse. Everyone was stunned by this scene. What is this? Even the Gu King couldn't withstand the reincarnation lightning. Yet this thing withstood 3 strikes in a row. The Burning Heaven Ancestor, unusually, lost his composure and exclaimed in shock. The deceitful Heaven Ancestor stared at the Gu worm that kept colliding with the lightning tribulation yet remained alive, his pupils shrinking, his heart filled with immense shock. He knew all too well how terrifying the power of lightning tribulation was. This Gu could actually ignore the power of lightning tribulation and even control it. This truly astonished him. How heaven-defying was a Gu worm that could control lightning tribulation? I have never heard of this Gu before. I have never seen any record of this Gu in any ancient book. Tisk, a heaven-defying Gu worm that can control lightning tribulation, truly terrifying. The upper limit of this Gu is no less than any known Gu worm in this world, and it is even on par with the 10 forbidden Gu. No. Lightning tribulation is the greatest nemesis of demonic Gu. This Gu can naturally counter the 10 forbidden Gu. Once this child grows up, he will pose a fatal threat to those who refine forbidden Gu. The deceitful Heaven Ancestor revealed an extremely solemn expression. Chapter 413 Melee 2024-06-22 Author, Xiang Kangshan is handsome for another 500 years. What is that? Even the protective formation of Xianfeng City couldn't withstand the lightning tribulation, yet this thing can completely ignore the power of the lightning tribulation. In the distance, Qin Shuang stared at the Gu worm with a shocked expression and shouted in disbelief. The god of gamblers, unusually serious, said gravely, This is a goo worm that has never appeared even in ancient times, and there isn't even a goo worm with similar abilities. It's possible he created it himself. This child is truly a prodigy. Being able to control the power of lightning tribulation means he's invincible among his peers. His future is not to be underestimated. Oh? In that case, isn't this goo worm the unique goo formula of my Long clan? It's truly an extremely heaven-defying unique goo formula. Long Xiaoyao stroked his beard and smiled, then turned to Feng Xiancheng beside him, saying, "Now, whether this goo worm can withstand all the lightning tribulations is unknown. If the pills are destroyed by the power of the lightning tribulation, will they count towards the score? However, even if they don't count, it doesn't matter. The pills of both Ancestor Burning Heaven and Ancestor Deceiving Heaven have already been destroyed by the power of the lightning tribulation. If these three pills don't count, then Long Yuiao of my clan will have the highest total score. In either case, my Long clan will win." Feng Xiancheng clenched his fists, his face extremely grim. He didn't reply, his gaze fixed on the central area of Xianfeng City. That area had already been destroyed by the power of the lightning tribulation. The economic loss is incalculable. His heart was bleeding, and he had no mind to pay any more attention to Long Xiaoyao. A highly respected fourth-grade alchemist in the crowd spoke up. "Of course it counts. According to the rules of ancient times, it counts." In the distant past, alchemy had reached its peak. There were countless formulas that could attract lightning tribulations, and many alchemy geniuses could concoct pills that would attract lightning tribulations. In ancient alchemy competitions, it was common for pills concocted by alchemy geniuses to attract lightning tribulations, but few could protect their pills from the power of the lightning. Therefore, in all ancient alchemy competitions, as long as the pills concocted attracted lightning tribulations, they would count towards the score regardless of whether they successfully survived the tribulation. Feng Xiancheng did not argue, because things were just as Long Xiaoyao had said. Whether the pills destroyed by lightning counted towards the score or not, the Long family would still win. Since the result was the same, there was no point in arguing. Since that's the case, then the outcome of this competition is no longer in doubt. The god of gamblers glanced at Feng Xiancheng and Wang Hu, then continued, "Now I announce that in the bet between the Dragon Alliance and the Phoenix Alliance, the Dragon Alliance wins, and the Phoenix Alliance loses half of its clan fortune to the Dragon Alliance. In the bet between the Radiant Moon Empire and the Flame Court Empire, the Flame Court Empire wins, and the Radiant Moon Empire loses half of its clan fortune to the Flame Court Empire. This alchemy competition is truly spectacular. My trip has been worthwhile." Ha ha ha. Amidst the god of gamblers' laughter, all the Phoenix and Wang clan goo cultivators felt as if they had lost something. Whether it was psychological or not, both clans' goo cultivators wore ugly expressions, and some even felt despair. Conversely, the Dragon and Kin clan goo cultivators cheered. They felt as if they had gained something extra, and whether it was psychological or not, they all felt extremely comfortable. Amidst the conversations, the final lightning tribulation finally descended from the sky. There were 36 lightning bolts in total, each stronger than the last. Before anyone knew it, all 36 bolts of lightning had descended upon the city. This final bolt, as thick as a well's opening, struck mercilessly. Although the Calamity Goo was already battered and exhausted, it was now full of vigor, its eyes shining brightly. Seeing the well-thick lightning bolt descend, it showed no fear, its eyes blazing with fighting spirit, and it flew towards the lightning bolt once more. Boom! To everyone's astonishment, the Calamity Goo was once again blasted away, but the well-thick lightning bolt was also shattered into pieces, scattering in other places, further devastating various parts of the city. Unfortunately, one of the bolts struck the alchemy furnace. Boom! The alchemy furnace could not withstand the bombardment of the lightning bolt and exploded into pieces. Seeing this, everyone showed expressions of regret. Had it failed? Many people were filled with disappointment, thinking that not being able to witness the appearance of the elixir capable of attracting the tribulation lightning was a lifelong regret. Just as everyone was at their lowest point, a glowing green pill flew out, attracting everyone's attention. This pill was entirely emerald green, emitting a mesmerizing green light, and within it, one could vaguely see a human figure moving about. The fact that a pill contained a human figure showed its extraordinary nature. At this moment, everyone perked up, their eyes filled with excitement, secretly marveling at how worthy it was of being an elixir capable of attracting the tribulation lightning. Its appearance was truly unique. It's done, ha ha ha. I never thought that this mere third-grade alchemist could actually successfully overcome the tribulation lightning. He's refined a pill capable of attracting the tribulation lightning? Just how heaven-defying is a pill capable of attracting the tribulation lightning? I can't wait any longer. Long Xiaoyao stared intently at the green pill flying into the air, his excitement uncontrollable. Everyone was breathing heavily, their eyes fixed on the pill, which had captivated their attention. What a pity, this formula only yields one pill at a time, Qin Shuang said regretfully. According to the rules, if a contestant only manages to refine one pill, it goes to the competition organizers. There are 10 countries organizing the competition, and one pill is simply not enough. The leaders of the various countries were now eyeing each other, secretly plotting how to distribute this heaven-defying pill. The god of gamblers chuckled, it's normal to only have one pill at a time. The more heaven-defying the pill, the fewer pills it produces. It's a natural law. It's impossible for such a heaven-defying pill to yield dozens in one batch. Since the tribulation is over, let's go over there, tisk tisk. A heaven-defying pill that can attract reincarnation lightning? Even I've never seen one like it before. The god of gamblers smiled and strode towards the plaza. The others perked up and quickly followed. However, at that moment, a sudden change occurred. The incredibly powerful pill that soared high into the sky finally aroused the greed of some. This was a mysterious pill capable of attracting the reincarnation lightning. Who wouldn't be tempted? At this moment, the surroundings were empty and deserted, and the city's protective array had been destroyed, leaving no obstacle to retreat. Therefore, some Gu Kings conceived the idea of snatching this incredible pill and running away. Stealing a pill from a Spirit Sea stage Gu cultivator, wasn't that easy? Thus, some greedy individuals could no longer control their desires and rushed forward the moment the pill took flight. When the pill reached its highest point, a mask-peaked Gu King was the first to arrive, grabbing the pill high in the sky and running away. Long Zhuan's main body had already strategically retreated, leaving only 5 clones. These 5 clones had been taking turns tending the furnace, and even after playing a war of attrition with the lightning tribulation, they were all now battered and bruised, their spirits low. Seeing a peak-level Gu King charging towards them, they were all startled. They disregarded the pills in the sky and turned to flee, showing no regard for the heaven-defying elixir. They had all inherited Long Zhuan's fear of death. How could they risk their lives for a single pill? They dared not intercept the Gu King. Losing the bone-growing blood-melting pill was acceptable. He still had living wood, and could simply refine another one. Even without the Gu King's snatching, Long Zhuan had no intention of keeping the bone-growing blood-melting pill. Such a heaven-defying pill was a hot potato in his hands, easily inviting death. Therefore, seeing someone snatch his bone-growing blood-melting pill, Long Zhuan felt no pain whatsoever. He hadn't intended to take it in the first place. Seeing the pill snatched by the mysterious person, the judges who were leisurely walking towards them panicked. How dare you? You're courting death, put it down, . The judges were instantly enraged and rushed towards the scene like madmen. According to the rules, this pill belonged to the competition organizers. This was blatant robbery, so how could they not be anxious? The first to arrive were the bold Gu Kings who had been observing the tribulation up close. They were already daring, and seeing the city's defenses were weak, how could they not be tempted to steal it? The mysterious peak-level Gu King wasn't the only one planning to grab the heaven-defying pill and run. The moment the pill flew into the air, many greedy individuals rushed forward. Therefore, the mysterious Gu King hadn't gone far before being stopped by Gu Kings arriving from behind. Before the 2 Gu Kings could exchange more than a few blows, the rest of the Gu Kings arrived and joined the fray. Seeing the situation was dire, the mysterious Gu King threw out the bone-growing blood-melting pill. From then on, the pill changed hands constantly, and Gu Kings were frequently stabbed in the back during the struggle for it, dying tragically in pools of blood. A chaotic battle among the Gu Kings erupted in the city center, quickly spiraling out of control and beyond the ability of the arriving judges to manage. Even the burning heaven ancestor and the deceitful heaven ancestor, coveting the bone-growing blood-melting pill, joined the fray without hesitation, now that the competition was over. With these 2 ancestors joining the fray, the situation became even more chaotic. Every time one of them attacked, a Gu King would fall in a pool of blood. As the 2 ancestors joined the fray, the number of Gu King deaths increased dramatically, and soon the ground was covered with corpses. Before long, the Gu Kings, terrified by the 2 old demons, dared not compete any longer and fled, abandoning their quest for the bone-growing blood-melting pill. At this point, Only two remained in the arena, the burning heaven ancestor and the deceitful heaven ancestor. They stood facing each other amidst the corpses, glaring at each other with grave expressions. The battle between these two old devils is about to begin. Chapter 414. The next goo insect's idea. Ancestor deceitful heaven, are you sure you want to compete with me? Ancestor burning heaven's eyes flashed with a cold light. Hell, who wouldn't want a heaven-defying pill that can summon the reincarnation lightning? Even if I didn't, you probably wouldn't let me go. Don't think I don't know you're collecting heavenly fire. A battle between us is inevitable. Ancestor deceitful heaven looked at him with a half-smile. Alright, since that's the case, then let's have a contest today. I've long wanted to see the power of the forbidden goo, burning heaven shouted, and 3 balls of heavenly fire suddenly flew out of his body. The 3 heavenly fires soared into the sky, and the temperature in the city began to rise sharply. Even if you only have one kind of heavenly fire, you can't unleash its full power at the Goo King level. So what if you can control 3 heavenly fires at the same time? Today I'll teach you how to play with heavenly fire. After saying that, Ancestor deceitful heaven's eyes revealed a fierce look, and he also released his imperial tomb golden fire. With the appearance of the golden fire from the imperial mausoleum, the temperature in the city soared again. The judges who had just arrived were all drenched in sweat, their faces contorted in pain. Not good, the burning heaven ancestor and the deceiving heaven ancestor are about to fight. Run, damn it. These 2 guys with heavenly fire are fighting in the city center. Xinfeng City is doomed. The judges were terrified and hurriedly ran out of the city. They left quickly and returned just as fast. The burning heaven ancestor and the deceiving heaven ancestor were not ordinary Goo Kings, both possessed world-destroying heavenly fire. Once the heavenly fire erupted, the resulting high temperature was unbearable for normal people, let alone the fact that there were 4 heavenly fires in the city at this moment. Who knew how deadly the temperature would be if 4 heavenly fires were combined? Staying in the city was tantamount to suicide. How could they not leave? Outside the city, the god of gamblers looked at Xinfeng City, which was now engulfed in flames, and a smile appeared on his lips. Lord Gambler, the burning heaven ancestor and the deceiving heaven ancestor are fighting in Xinfeng City. Xinfeng City is likely to be destroyed. Although Xinfeng City is large, it is still no larger than the attack range of the heavenly fire. Anyone who runs slowly in the city will be killed by the residual force of the battle between the 2 old demons. The old man who had been following the god of gambler looked at the already raging Xinfeng City and showed a solemn expression. The god of gamblers nodded and smiled. When these 2 old devils go mad, why would they care about the lives of ordinary people? Xinfeng City has just suffered the ravages of lightning tribulation and has been baptized by the 4 heavenly fires. It's likely doomed. Tisk tisk. This is the imperial city of a super empire. This is probably a harbinger of the halving of the clan's fortune. The effects of this halving have already begun. The old man shook his head and sighed. The impact of having the clan's fortune is too great. If even the imperial city can be easily destroyed, then the entire country is not far from destruction. This time, the Feng clan has suffered a setback. They wanted to use the burning heaven ancestor to scheme against the Long clan. But who would have thought such a monstrous talent would appear? A mere 3rd-grade alchemist can actually refine pills beyond his level, crushing a 4th-grade alchemist. Who could have imagined this? Truly, accidents happen everywhere. The old man looked at the god of gamblers. The Xinfeng Empire was indeed not far from destruction. Why did the god of gamblers orchestrate a gamble between the 4 great empires' clan fortunes? It's all because the god of gamblers wants to establish a nation and needs a large, well-located territory. The 4 great empires of the Central Plains are too powerful, so the god of gamblers, for the sake of stability, plans to let one of them lose its national fortune before taking action. Once an empire's national fortune is damaged, the impact will be multifaceted. Attacking a nation whose fortune has run out will naturally have a much higher chance of success. Let's go. Since the losing side is the Heavenly Phoenix Empire, let's attack the Heavenly Phoenix Empire. My puppet army will flatten every corner of the Heavenly Phoenix Empire within 3 months. The god of gamblers' gaze sharpened, and he finally turned and left. Meanwhile, on the other side, Long Zhuan's clone had only run out of the city a short while when Long Xiaoyao descended from the sky, blocking his path. Seeing that the heavenly fire attack behind him could no longer reach him, Long Zhuan stopped and said with a wry smile, "Senior, the bone-growing and blood-melting pill has been taken away. Under these circumstances, I don't know if it counts as points." "It counts, of course it counts. According to the rules since ancient times, as long as the pill attracts the lightning tribulation, it already counts as points, regardless of whether the pill is destroyed by the lightning tribulation. Long Xiaoyao stroked his beard, looking at this outstanding junior with great satisfaction, and said with satisfaction, "Refining pills beyond one's level, you really are something. I really don't know how your brain is structured, that you could create such a terrifying pill refining method. You use this method to refine pills beyond your level and defeated ancestor Burning Heaven, winning the championship of this Western region pill refining competition. At the same time, you also won the bet for the Long clan. You are a great benefactor to the entire Long clan. Tens of millions of Long clan members are able to live, and they all owe their lives to you," Long Xiaoyao said with an extremely serious expression. "Senior, you flatter me." Long Zhuan was somewhat flattered, but then, as if remembering something, he quickly added, "Since I've won the championship in this alchemy competition, what about the reward?" Long Zhuan glanced back at Xianfeng City, which had already been engulfed by the Sea of Fire, and asked worriedly, "Had his reward been swallowed by the flames?" "Don't worry, this is a reward from my Long clan. How could I not value it?" Long Xiaoyao laughed, taking out a store drink from his robes. "I already collected your championship reward before leaving the city, knowing that Xianfeng City was likely to be destroyed by the heavenly fire. I also took a lot of good things with me, they're all in this stored ring. I'll give it all to you now. There are many treasures inside, consider it a reward from the Long clan for winning the bet for you." Long Zhuan took the stored ring that flew over, probed it with his soul power, and examined its contents. He immediately beamed with joy. There were so many treasures inside that he was dazzled. The most astonishing items were a large bag of enlightenment tea leaves and a heavenly grade spiritual herb called the ice heart tea tree. The medicinal world produced countless rare spiritual herbs, none of which had ever been cultivated on his wooden island. Long Zhuan couldn't help but click his tongue in amazement. What a generous gesture. Enlightenment tea was an incredibly rare treasure, yet Long Xiaoyao didn't accept it himself but instead gave it to him. This favor was truly immense. Although he had already broken off a branch from the enlightenment tea tree and successfully planted it on his wooden island with the help of the medicinal goo, the enlightenment tea tree was a divine tree, unique in the world. Even with the medicinal goo to accelerate its growth, it would still take a very long time to mature. How could he not be tempted by these enlightenment tea leaves? "Senior, this," Long Xiaoyao knew what Long Zhuan wanted to say, so he immediately stopped him. "What one can comprehend after drinking the enlightenment tea varies from person to person. Some people drink the enlightenment tea and comprehend nothing, while others drink it and comprehend something terrifying enough to attract a tribulation. The enlightenment tea should only be given to the person with the highest comprehension to avoid wasting its precious resource. I know my own limitations. The enlightenment tea would be wasted in my hands. My talent is limited, and I can't create anything good after drinking it, but you are different. You have extremely high talent in self-creation. The enlightenment tea can only reach its maximum value in your hands. I look forward to you creating more heaven-defying unique inheritances for the Long clan in the future under the power of the enlightenment tea." Long Xiaoyao looked at Long Zhuan with expectant eyes. He said that he had limited talent, but that was just self-deprecation. As the chief alchemist of a country, his comprehension, knowledge, and wisdom were all first-rate in the world. How could he have limited talent? But this depends on who he's compared to. Compared to a monster like Long Zhuan, how could he possibly be confident in his own talent? Long Zhuan understood the unspoken meaning in his words. Long Xiaoyao hoped that a portion of the unique inheritance he would create in the future could remain in the Long clan, which was why he generously gifted him the enlightenment tea. Long Xiaoyao then looked towards Xianfeng City, his brows furrowing deeply. "The coming period is likely to be turbulent. I originally intended to bring you back to the Long Tang Empire to receive your title, hold a grand ceremony, and bestow upon you a hidden dragon tattoo, but it seems that the Burning Heaven ancestor has already set his sights on your heavenly fire. Although the Long Tang Empire is strong, it really can't protect you. The Burning Heaven ancestor's terrifying power far exceeds your imagination." Thinking of the Burning Heaven ancestor's terrifying power, Long Xiaoyao's expression became extremely solemn. "Find a place to hide your identity now. Don't use the name Long Zhuan anymore. Without further ado, use the guha to leave now. Go as far away as possible." Long Zhuan nodded and said, "I will remember your kindness, senior." Without another word, Long Zhuan took out a guha and immediately went inside. The other clones followed suit. Seeing that Long Zhuan had left, Long Xiaoyao immediately threw a ball of fire at the Gu hut, burning the ordinary hut to ashes. He glanced once more at the raging fire of Xianfeng City, a gloating smile on his face, and finally left. The land of sin, Thunder Swamp. Seeing his 5 clones emerge battered and bruised from the hut, Long Zhuan immediately went to greet them, asking with concern, "Are you all alright? What do you think?" The flame clone glared at him, tossing over a stored ring. This stored ring contains enlightenment tea and ice heart tea tree, an extra reward from Senior Long Xiaoyao. Long Zhuan caught the flying storage ring, and after examining its contents, his face lit up with a smile. He hadn't expected Long Xiaoyao to be so generous, even giving away the ice heart tea tree so readily. This was a legendary heavenly-grade spiritual herb, known for its calming and tranquilizing effects, effectively suppressing inner demons. For those burdened by inner demons, the path of cultivation was fraught with hardship. Ice heart tea was undoubtedly a lifesaver. Now that he possessed both enlightenment tea and ice heart tea, Long Zhuan's mind began to race again. He wondered if he could use these 2 divine teas to refine a tea gu for himself. The refining process for a tea gu was exactly the same as that for a wine gu. The wine gu is a gu worm that transforms after a wine worm drinks a set of fine wines. The tea gu is a gu worm that transforms after a tea worm drinks a set of spiritual teas. Both wine gu and tea gu are major gu worm schools in the gu world, with potential no less than any other gu worm school, and many people create them. Wine gu becomes stronger because of wine, and tea gu becomes stronger because of tea. If you have good tea, then creating tea gu is undoubtedly the best choice. Because he had enlightenment tea and ice heart tea, 2 of the world's top divine teas, Long Zhuan immediately decided to create tea gu. As far as he knew, the tea ceremony in this world was similar to that of his previous life in ancient times, without the technique of tea frying. What if he used the tea frying technique to create a tea gu? Would a tea gu created using the tea frying technique be stronger than the tea gu of this world? Long Zhuan's eyes lit up, and he became increasingly expectant. Please change the update time and read the main text. 2024 author, Xiangkangshan Zhe Shui Wu by Nian. Recently, updates have been irregular. The longer the story, the more often I experience writer's block. Sometimes I get up late or have other commitments, and I can't update by noon. Therefore, the update schedule has been changed to 1 chapter at noon and 1 chapter at 5 p.m. If you prefer to read both chapters at the same time, please read the afternoon one. There will be another chapter this afternoon. Chapter 415, Meeting Old Man Shui. 3 months later. The once dark, cloud-shrouded thunder swamp was suddenly filled with rumbling thunder, and the endless clouds vanished, replaced by a vast expanse of tribulation clouds crackling with white lightning. The original boundless dark clouds were completely swallowed by the tribulation clouds, allowing sunlight to once again shine up on the thunder swamp, which had never seen the sun. At the center of the tribulation clouds, Long Zhuan looked up at the sky filled with white lightning, his small face showing no sign of panic. He was confident in this tribulation. Before completing its second transformation, the tribulation gu had successfully passed the rebirth lightning. Now that the rebirth lightning had descended for the second time, it posed even less of a threat. He didn't know who had ultimately obtained the bone-growing blood-melting pill, and now, in order to trade heavenly water with Elder Shui, he had no choice but to refine another one. Refining a bone-growing blood-melting pill shouldn't normally take 3 months, but his clones and the tribulation gu were all seriously injured, requiring a period of recuperation. Once his clones and the tribulation gu had recovered, Long Zhuan didn't hesitate and immediately began refining the bone-growing blood-melting pill, a process beyond his current level. Having learned from the first experience, refining the life-generating bone and blood-melting pill was naturally a breeze this time, and it was completed with ease. The Thunder Swamp itself was a forbidden zone where human activity was prohibited, so attracting the reincarnation thunder here wouldn't attract the Gu King from afar. At this moment, the first reincarnation thunder had already descended, and the tribulation gu showed excitement, flying into the sky and heading straight for the first lightning tribulation. Unlike last time, this time the tribulation gu collided with a reincarnation thunder and was not knocked away. Instead, it swallowed the reincarnation thunder whole, even letting out a comfortable burp. It was nothing like the pathetic state it had been in before, almost being struck dead by the reincarnation thunder. 3 months ago, the tribulation gu successfully devoured the reincarnation thunder, thus completing its transformation and gaining the power to control it. Now it was the reincarnation thunder itself, so how could it be afraid of it? The white lightning dancing wildly in the sky was nothing more than a snack for it. After the first lightning turbulation failed to descend, the second, the third, quickly followed. However, although each lightning turbulation was stronger than the last, the falling lightning could not pose any threat to the turbulation goo. Instead, it was all devoured by it. Watching the turbulation goo feast in the air, Long Zhuan felt a surge of security. Now that the turbulation goo could control the reincarnation lightning, who in the world could rival him among those of the same level? One lightning bolt after another rained down without pause. Soon, only the last lightning bolt remained in the sky, a bolt the size of a well's opening striking the turbulation goo heavily. This final bolt of reincarnation lightning posed a small threat to the turbulation goo, knocking it back a few steps, but that was all. After this lightning bolt struck, the turbulation clouds in the sky slowly dissipated. The deafening thunder disappeared, and sunlight shone again, turning the thunder swamp into a peaceful and sunny scene, as if the terrifying scene had never happened. Long Zhuan looked at the turbulation goo and, seeing that it was unharmed, felt relieved. However, after consuming so much reincarnation lightning, the turbulation goo had only increased its growth rate slightly, which left him slightly disappointed. The bone-regenerating blood-melting pill has been successfully refined. Without further ado, it's time to go and trade heavenly water with Elder Shui. Long Zhuan smiled slightly, lifted the lid of the alchemy furnace, and took out the green pill from the center. Gazing at the moving, illusory human figures on the pill's surface, his smile deepened. He placed the newly refined bone-regenerating blood-melting pill into a bottle, then immediately headed towards the center of the thunder swamp. Some time later, he returned to the familiar lake, bent down, craned his neck, and peered into the lake bed. After searching carefully for a long time, he finally spotted Elder Shui. Elder Shui seemed terrified of thunder, huddled in a corner at the bottom of the lake, trembling. He was clearly badly frightened by the recent reincarnation thunder. Elder Shui, it's me. I've come to trade heavenly water with you. Show yourself quickly, Long Zhuan shouted. Upon hearing this, Elder Shui's soul trembled slightly. He immediately flew out from the bottom of the lake and landed not far in front of Long Zhuan, exuding an extraordinary aura, like a hermit master, completely devoid of any panic. It was as if the trembling figure from just moments ago wasn't him at all. I didn't expect you to complete the mission so quickly. Did you bring me Shui Wuking's head, or a body that meets my standards for possession? Elder Shui asked impatiently as soon as he appeared. I didn't kill Shui Wuking, nor did I find a genius who meets your standards for possession. I brought you something else. With this, your physical body can be reshaped, and you won't need to possess someone else's body anymore. No matter how perfect someone else's body is, it's ultimately not your own. After saying this, Long Zhuan also took out a bone-growing and blood-melting pill, looking at Elder Shui with confidence. With such a heaven-defying treasure, he didn't believe that Elder Shui wouldn't take the bait. Elder Shui glanced curiously at the pill bottle in his hand. The bottle was transparent, and through it, he could clearly see the moving, illusory human figures on the surface of the pill. He was immediately astonished. A pill that can reshape the body from the soul? I've never heard of such a pill in this world. Elder Shui's eyes flickered. Although he knew Long Zhuan had no reason to lie to him, he simply couldn't believe it. A pill with such potent effects was too incredible. How could he easily believe it? However, thinking of the reincarnation lightning turbulation that had just occurred, and looking at this warm pill, which was clearly freshly refined, his pupils contracted, and his heart quickened. If there was any pill in the Gu realm that could attract reincarnation lightning, it was probably only this heaven-defying pill that could reshape the body from the soul. At this moment, he was already 80% convinced. Who is refining pills here just now? And was it this pill they refined? Elder Shui's eyes widened, his heart filled with shock. Someone in this world could actually refine a pill that could attract reincarnation lightning? And how terrifying would someone who could withstand reincarnation lightning without dying be? He couldn't imagine. He had never even considered that Long Zhuan, a mere third-grade alchemist, could refine a heaven-defying fourth-grade pill. He would never believe it even if he were beaten to death. Seeing Elder Shui's solemn expression, Long Zhuan smiled inwardly, knowing he had achieved his goal of intimidation. As long as he had a powerful backer whom Elder Shui feared, Elder Shui would never dare to bully him when making a deal. That was my master. After refining the bone-growing blood-melting pill, He was struck by lightning and suffered serious injuries. He is currently in seclusion recuperating. I swear before the honesty Gu that the bone-growing blood-melting pill can reshape the soul into physical body is absolutely true. If you don't trust me, don't you trust the honesty Gu? As Long Zhuan spoke, he once again took out the Gu worm he hated most and placed it on his shoulder. He seemed to be using the trust Gu to prove the authenticity of the pill, but in reality, he was using it to prove his previous statement. Long Zhuan did indeed have an extremely powerful master, someone Elder Shui could not easily provoke, and it was best not to act rashly. Things unfolded as he expected. When Long Zhuan mentioned having a master, the trust Gu didn't glow, and Elder Shui subconsciously believed he had a very powerful master. His gaze towards Long Zhuan changed, secretly sighing that this young man's background was definitely not simple and should not be provoked. Now, with the trust Gu as witness, he was completely convinced of the pill that could reshape the physical body from the soul. Looking at the pill, his breathing quickened. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 416 Tea Tasting Event. June 24, 2024. Author, Xiangkangshan Zhe Shui Wu by Nian. Could you please explain the details of this pill, and what its side effects are? Shui Liuqiang suppressed his joy and finally looked away. He remained calm and didn't lose his composure because of the pill. The more miraculous the pill, the greater its limitations. He dared not take it rashly without a clear understanding. This pill is called the bone-growing and blood-melting pill. It can create a physical body out of thin air. This body is an incarnation of a spiritual herb, extremely afraid of fire. Those who consume this pill will be left with a lifelong weakness of being afraid of fire. Apart from that, there are no other drawbacks. As soon as Long Zhuan finished speaking, Elder Shui couldn't wait to say, such a side effect is acceptable. I'll just avoid provoking fire attribute cultivators of the same level in the future. Then how does the body created by this pill compare to my original body? How is the compatibility? Long Zhuan answered truthfully, the compatibility is naturally perfect. This pill has two modes. The first is to swallow it directly. The bone-growing and blood-melting pill will directly restore the body of the person who consumed it before. The second mode is heaven-defying. You can freely choose your aptitude, attributes, appearance, body type, and no matter what you choose, the compatibility between this body and your soul is perfect. However, I suggest you choose the first mode and swallow the bone-growing and blood-melting pill directly to restore a body exactly the same as before. Due to the limitations of the pill's grade, the second mode has significant limitations. Top-tier aptitude may not be selectable. Furthermore, regardless of your choice, the body you obtain will not be at the peak of the Gu King realm. You must cultivate from scratch. However, cultivating from scratch will eliminate bottlenecks. As long as resources are sufficient, restoring your original realm won't take more than a few years. Hearing this, Elder Shui's shock remained undiminished. The second mode of the bone-growing and blood-melting pill allowed him to freely choose the type of body he wanted to create. Such an ability was simply heaven-defying. What if he created a 2-meter tall figure? Ideally, he'd be the most handsome man in the world, and only 18 years old, with ample assets and excellent sexual prowess. His original body was old and ugly, something he utterly despised. Elder Shui showed a conflicted expression. Every advantage has its disadvantage. While his original body's aptitude was top tier, it was undeniably too old and decayed. Choosing a new body would grant him a young and strong physique, but the limitation of the pill's grade meant he couldn't freely choose the top-tier aptitude. This was truly a headache, causing him to suffer from decision paralysis. Finally, Elder Shui raised his head and asked again, can your bone-regenerating blood-melting pill freely choose a special physique? Can my heavenly water physique be created out of thin air? Long Zhuan shook his head and replied, if it's a 12th grade bone-regenerating blood-melting pill, everything can be freely chosen, including the various heaven-defying aptitudes ranked in the top 10, but this is a 4th grade bone-regenerating blood-melting pill, so freely choosing a special aptitude is definitely not possible. If even a special physique can be freely chosen, then what's attracted will be far more than just the reincarnation lightning. Hearing that he couldn't freely choose a special physique, Elder Shui showed disappointment and sighed. Since that's the case, then there's nothing to hesitate about. I choose the first mode, to restore my original body. Aptitude is the most important thing. Let the original body age if it wants to, Longzhuan nodded. This was also his suggestion. If someone was a cultivation failure, then choosing the second mode would definitely maximize the benefits. But if it was someone like Elder Shui, with top-tier aptitude rarely seen in the world, then choosing the first mode would definitely maximize the benefits. There was nothing to hesitate about. I can give you the bone-growing and blood-melting pill anytime, but what about my heavenly water? Before Longzhuan could finish speaking, Elder Shui immediately interrupted. I can also give you heavenly water anytime, but you're just a spirit C-stage goo cultivator, you have no chance of subduing it. Even I was almost killed by heavenly water. Do you think a mere spirit C-stage goo cultivator like you has the ability to subdue it? Don't say I'm untrustworthy. If I release the heavenly water seed now, you'll be killed instantly. Elder Shui looked at Longzhuan seriously, not joking. Hearing this, Longzhuan frowned. Elder Shui was right, he indeed didn't have the ability to subdue heavenly water now. Did he have to wait until he reached the gooking stage? That might take a long time. After a moment's thought, Elder Shui said, I'll give you two choices. First, come back to me for heavenly water when you break through to the Goo King realm. Second, we'll make another deal. You kill Shui Wuking, and in exchange, I'll help you absorb heavenly water. I'm very familiar with this heavenly water, and with my help, you'll likely be able to subdue it successfully. Other Goo cultivators at the Spirit C stage can't subdue heavenly water no matter what, but you're different. I can see you have an immortal body. Since you can subdue heavenly fire at the Spirit C stage, subduing heavenly water at the Spirit C stage shouldn't be difficult for you with my help. Of course, you need my help to subdue heavenly water at the Spirit C stage. You can't possibly subdue it on your own. The heavenly fire seed you luckily absorbed is a remnant. Its power is far, far weaker than my heavenly water. Longzhuan wasn't surprised that Elder Shui knew he possessed heavenly fire. Heavenly fire and heavenly water repel each other. When they meet at close range, they will sense each other. He had just sensed the power of the heavenly water, so it wouldn't be difficult for Elder Shui to sense the heavenly fire on him. Longzhuan shook his head, helplessly saying, Please, I'm just a Goo cultivator at the Spirit C stage. Only at the Goo King level is it possible to kill Shui Wuking. Once I reach the Goo King level, I can simply choose the first option. After becoming a Goo King, I can subdue Xianshu with my own power. Why would I need to kill Shui Wuking for you? Shui Lao's lips curled up, and he laughed. I know that with your current level, you can't possibly kill Shui Wuking. In a year, the He clan of the Radiant Moon Empire will simultaneously hold a tea tasting ceremony and a wine tasting ceremony. These two ceremonies will include wine and tea offerings. The best wine and tea will be selected and offered as sacrifices to the two river gods of the Boruo River. One river god prefers wine, and the other prefers tea. As long as the quality of the wine and tea is high enough to satisfy both river gods, the river god's mystic realm can be opened. Otherwise, if either river god is dissatisfied, the opportunity to open the river god's mystic realm will be missed. The river god's mystic realm is full of treasures. The number of treasures will vary depending on the quality of the wine and tea. Once the river god's mystic realm opens, all Goo cultivators participating in the wine and tea ceremonies will enter to search for treasures. Although the river mystic realm has no realm restrictions, it will suppress the Goo King's realm to the Spirit C stage, and all the Goo worms on the Goo King's body will unconditionally drop one level. Once the Goo King and his Goo worms are downgraded together, he will be no stronger than a Spirit C stage Goo cultivator. Hearing this, even before Elder Shui finished speaking, Longzhuan already understood his meaning. It wasn't hard to guess that Shui Wuking would most likely go to the River Mystic Realm. Once Shui Wuking's realm was suppressed by the River Mystic Realm, it would indeed be a good opportunity to kill him. But how can you be sure that Shui Wuking will definitely go to that River Mystic Realm? What if he doesn't go? Longzhuan immediately asked. Elder Shui looked at him, his voice resolute. He will definitely go. The Shui clan loves everything related to water. They possess a vast collection of fine wines and teas, and their Goo cultivators are particularly fond of refining wine and tea. Goo Shui Wuking is a master of both, so he certainly won't miss such a grand event. As long as the River Mystic Realm opens, he will definitely enter. In the River Mystic Realm, his cultivation level and Goo worms will be downgraded, which is the perfect opportunity to kill him. Elder Shui's eyes flashed with a vicious glint, his killing intent undisguised. He said fiercely, within a year, without any bottlenecks, I can recover to the Spirit C stage. In the secret realm, we will be at the same level. With the two of us joining forces, Shui Wuking will have no chance of survival. Elder Shui clenched his fist. Long Zhuan glanced at him, his gaze thoughtful. Whether Shui Wuking lived or died was unimportant to him, but he was genuinely interested in the tea gathering Elder Shui had mentioned. He had just decided to refine tea goo, and unexpectedly, a tea tasting event had appeared. According to Elder Shui, the higher the quality of the tea at the tea tasting event, the more likely it is to unlock the river mystic realm, and the treasures within will vary depending on the quality of the tea. In this way, everyone participating in the tea tasting event will bring their best tea, resulting in a gathering of countless fine teas. Even the rarest teas, hard to find outside, might appear here. The process of refining tea goo involves tea worms consuming different combinations of spiritual teas, transforming into tea goo with different abilities. Collecting different varieties of fine tea is key to refining tea goo, and there is no better place to collect such teas than the tea tasting event. Long Zhuan immediately decided that regardless of whether he agreed to Elder Shui's conditions, he would definitely attend the tea tasting event. I can join forces with you to deal with Shui Wuking in the secret realm, but I have two conditions, Long Zhuan said seriously, looking at Elder Shui. Speak. Elder Shui smiled. First, you must help me successfully subdue Xianshu. Second, I will only join forces with you to deal with Shui Wuking if there is no risk involved. If I sense any risk or unexpected changes during the process, I will withdraw at any time, Long Zhuan said. His deal was unfair. Elder Shui had to help him subdue Xianshu first, and then he would help Elder Shui ambush and kill Shui Wuking a year later after the river mystic realm opened. Leaving aside whether he would keep his promise, even if they actually encountered Shui Wuking, he could choose whether to intervene or not. Whether there was any risk was entirely up to him. He wondered if Elder Shui would agree to this unequal condition. Old Shui chuckled, of course. If there's danger and you retreat halfway, that's only human nature. If I were in your shoes, I would make the same choice, but rest assured, no one understands Shui Wuking better than me. Life is only once, I wouldn't act without absolute certainty. I agree to all your conditions. If you don't need any preparation, I can help you subdue Xianshu right now. Old Shui's smile grew wider. He wasn't stupid, he knew perfectly well that these two conditions were unfair to him. But he had his own calculations. Those who possessed heavy water could sense each other. If he gave someone a unit of heavy water, Shui Wuking, upon sensing it, would definitely attack the person who possessed it in order to complete his heavy water arsenal. Then, if he wanted to decide whether to act based on the situation, it wouldn't be up to him anymore. Old Shui chuckled inwardly. Chapter 417 Long Zhuan's Plan. June 25, 2024 Author, Xiangkangshan Zhe Shui Wu Bai Nian I have nothing to prepare. Now help me subdue the heavenly water. With that, Long Zhuan turned and left, leaving his water clone standing in place. He figured that using his water clone would increase the success rate of devouring the heavenly water, so he unusually didn't use his flame clone. Seeing Long Zhuan's actions, Elder Shui's lips twitched involuntarily. Good heavens, he was afraid of death and actually sent his clone into danger. Could it be that the cultivation results of this kid's clone could be returned to his main body? Elder Shui suddenly looked solemn. Such an ability was truly inconceivable. This kid had 5 clones, counting his main body, wouldn't it mean he had 6 chances to subdue the heavenly water? He was a little uneasy. Long Zhuan didn't stay to watch his water clone devour the heavenly water. Since Elder Shui was confident that he, a spirit C-stage goo cultivator, could subdue the heavenly water, he would wait patiently. He entered the space inside the devouring world toad's body and landed on a cold floating island full of glaciers and snow. This floating ice island was the result of the past 3 months. It was quite a coincidence. The ice heart tea tree thrives in icy environments and cannot survive in non-icy environments. Just when he needed an ice attribute floating island, the ice fruit on the world tree unexpectedly ripened, bestowing upon him one. The ice heart tea tree was planted in the center of the floating ice island, and under the careful care of the medicinal goo, it soon took root successfully. Gazing at the ice heart tea tree in the center of the floating ice island, and gently inhaling the fragrance emanating from it, he showed a look of intoxication and nodded in satisfaction. If he used tea frying techniques to process the ice heart tea, he felt it would be enough to sweep the competition at the tea tasting conference a year later. Winning first place would be no problem. Then, he could exchange tea with many tea enthusiasts, Collecting a copy of all the famous teas that appeared at the tea tasting conference would be no problem at all. Longzhuan smiled confidently, then suddenly thought of something. He took out a transparent crystal box from his storage ring, looked at the icy blue fruit pulp inside, and his eyes showed a thoughtful expression. This icy blue pulp was precisely the flesh shaved from the world tree ice fruit, which he kept in this medicine box with a long shelf life. Besides the world tree ice fruit pulp, he had also previously collected the pulp of the world tree fire fruit and wood fruit, but hadn't yet figured out their specific uses. However, considering there was a wine tasting event next to the tea tasting event, and that high-quality wine was also key to unlocking the river mystic realm, he suddenly had an inspiration. The reason he had previously researched the sea stabilizing needle was to use it to track the reincarnation lightning that could transform the calamity goo. He didn't need the sea stabilizing needle himself, and could simply exchange it for 10,000-year monkey wine. But plans don't always go as expected. He never imagined that the bone-growing and blood-melting pill he refined in the subsequent alchemy competition could attract the reincarnation lightning. Since he already had the reincarnation lightning, the sea stabilizing needle was now dispensable. There was no need to research it and exchange it for 10,000-year monkey wine. He'd rather use that time to create his own wine recipe. Of course, this didn't mean the plan to research the sea stabilizing needle was completely abandoned. The sea stabilizing needle was an incredibly powerful artifact, and he was determined to research it no matter what. However, this plan had to be postponed. He planned to use even more expensive materials to attract a lightning tribulation ranked higher than the reincarnation lightning with the sea stabilizing needle. As for the top-grade spiritual wine used for the transformation of the wine goo, he would create his own. He already had an inspiration. How about using the pulp of the world tree fruits to research and create a fruit wine? A wine brewed from world tree fruits would be incredibly powerful. It was undoubtedly the world's #1 immortal brew. What would happen if he then distilled this immortal brew using distillation techniques and roasted the enlightenment tea using tea frying techniques, and then offered it together to the river god? Longzhuan's eyes lit up. According to Elder Shui, the higher the quality of the wine and tea offered as sacrifice, the more treasures would appear in the secret realm. He eagerly anticipated what treasures would appear in the secret realm after his world's #1 wine and world's #1 tea were poured into the river. At this moment, he started courting death again. 3 days passed in a flash. In the center of Thunder Swamp, Elder Shui sat cross-legged on the ground, looking exhausted. His water clone sat opposite him, covered in blood, looking like he had been seriously injured. He was now sitting cross-legged on the ground with his eyes closed, peacefully recuperating. Not far away, Longzhuan's main body was smiling as he transformed the liquid in his hands into various shapes, having a great time. The heavenly water, which his clone had barely managed to subdue after losing half his life, had fallen into his hands so easily. It was simply outrageous. I've heard that heavenly water can regenerate infinitely when there is enough energy. It's truly amazing. If my cultivation level were high enough, could I create a lake out of thin air, flooding Jinshan Temple and submerging a city? That would be a world-destroying power. Longzhuan clicked his tongue in amazement. HMPH. It's not just a city that's been flooded. If you became a god, with control of the heavenly water, you could flood an entire region. The lives of billions of people would be at your mercy. Old Shui opened his eyes, looked up at him, and said, "Now that you've successfully subdued the heavenly water, can you give me your bone-growing and blood-melting pill?" Longzhuan took out a bottle of pills from his storage ring and tossed it to Old Shui, saying, "Do you need to rest for a bit? No problem. I can't wait to have a body. After enduring countless years of loneliness, I don't want to wait a moment longer." Old Shui caught the flying bottle, poured the pills into his palm, stared at them intently for a while, and finally couldn't resist any longer, swallowing it whole. The bone-growing and blood-melting pill melted instantly upon entering his mouth. The moment Old Shui swallowed the pill, it transformed into pure medicinal power, spreading rapidly from his mouth throughout his entire body. Under Longzhuan's astonished gaze, red blood vessels began to grow from Elder Shui's body, connecting one another as if they were sentient. The white skeleton within his body also spread downwards, from the skull to the feet. Soon, the entire skeleton was formed, the framework of the human body was complete, and then the heart, liver, kidneys, and all other human organs began to grow. Once the internal organs were fully formed, muscles and skin finally began to grow on the surface of the body. Hair also began to grow on the skin. At this point, The physical body already had the outline of Elder Shui, perfectly matching his soul size, as if carved from the same mold. Long Zhuan stared in shock, unable to recover for a long time. To create a human body out of thin air was simply a miracle. What kind of freak created this elixir, so incredibly powerful? This pill can indeed reshape one's physical body. It's truly defying the heavens. Is this what it feels like to have a physical body? It's such a long-lost feeling. I never thought I could be reborn in my lifetime. Heaven has been kind to me, Water Heartless. Your old friend has reshaped his physical body. Keep your head safe, I'll come and collect it myself. Old Water clenched his fists, laughing wildly with excitement, tears welling up in his eyes, like a madman. Chapter 418 Master Song's Insect Armor Shop reopens. June 25, 2024 Author, Xiang Kangshan, handsome for another 500 years alright, stop laughing, hurry up and put on your clothes. Long Zhuan tossed out a set of clothes, his eyes showing disgust. Dark and ugly. The bone-growing blood-melting pill could only create a physical body, not clothes out of thin air. An old man jumping around in front of him without clothes was simply an eyesore. Only then did Elder Shui realize he wasn't wearing any clothes, and his old face flushed red. He caught the clothes that flew from the air and quickly put them on. He smiled awkwardly and said, "Hey, young friend, I'm currently penniless. Could you give me some pills for cultivation? I want all the 1st to 3rd grade spirit-enhancing pills. Once I recover to the peak of the Gu King realm, I'll repay you with interest." "No problem." Long Zhuan readily took out bottles of pills from his storage ring and placed them on the ground. He had all the 1st to 3rd grade spirit-enhancing pills, quickly piling them up. Most of these pills belonged to others and were unnecessary to him. A small portion was refined by himself. However, he had tampered with the pills he refined. While one shouldn't harbor malicious intent, one must be wary. He couldn't fully trust Elder Shui at the moment and had to lay some precautions. These precautions were guaranteed to be undetectable even to the Gu King. As long as Elder Shui didn't attack him, he would be safe for life. But if Elder Shui harbored ill intentions, the calamity toxin in the pills would be difficult even for a Gu King to withstand. "I only have these pills for now. Come back for more when you run out. There are lightning rods here. Even without heavenly water, the lightning here won't harm you. Just cultivate here in peace. I'm about to break through and need to go into seclusion for a while. Call me when the tea tasting conference is about to begin." With that, Long Zhuan said no more and turned to leave. Elder Shui looked at the 4 lightning rods placed around him, secretly marveling. He had noticed the 4 lightning rods long ago and could easily see their function. He found it hard to believe that just 4 tall metal pillars could allow nearby people to ignore the impact of lightning. He couldn't understand the principle behind it at all. If humanity had mastered this technology earlier, anyone could enter and leave the Thunder Swamp unharmed, and the Thunder Swamp would no longer be a forbidden place in the eyes of humans. What a brilliant idea. I really don't know how he came up with it. Old Shui stared at the 4 lightning rods, secretly shocked. After watching Long Zhuan's figure disappear completely into the distance, he finally went over to collect the pills on the ground and walked towards a cave not far away. After entering the cave, he placed one of the pills given to him by Long Zhuan in his palm, carefully observed it for a moment, but found nothing unusual. However, being cautious by nature, he still didn't take the pill. Instead, he conjured a storage ring from his hand, took out a pill from it, threw it into his mouth, and began to cultivate with his eyes closed. He hadn't lied to Long Zhuan, he had indeed lost all his belongings in that battle. Before the battle, he hadn't carried all his valuables with him. After all, he couldn't put all his eggs in one basket. If he didn't have a single gu, how could he dare seek revenge against Shui Wuking? His request for pills from Long Zhuan was merely a way of showing he had nothing of value, lest Long Zhuan, seeing him as only at the spirit-gathering stage, harbor murderous intent. Although he was a Gu King soul with many trump cards and wasn't afraid of him, he didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble, especially since that kid had a master he couldn't afford to offend. Long Zhuan returned to the main island and began seclusion to create his own wine recipe. This time, the recipe was different from before. The ingredient used was the fruit of the world tree. The fruit of the world tree was the highest level material in this world, and the difficulty of creating a wine recipe using it was unimaginable. Even the auxiliary ingredients were not easily collected. He could only create the recipe while simultaneously ordering his clones to collect the expensive ingredients required for the recipe. Thus, Master Song's insect armor shop in the city of Sin, which had been closed for a long time, reopened. As usual, anything produced by Master Song is guaranteed to be top-notch. Each insect armor he creates must be exchanged for specific materials. He does not accept spirit stones for trade. The materials that can be used in medicine with the world tree fruit are increasingly rare, and obviously, ordinary insect armor cannot be obtained through such means. Long Zhuan gritted his teeth and used a large quantity of alloy to create a batch of high-quality insect armor. This batch of insect armor was truly epic-making, far surpassing the strength of insect armor of this era, and even stronger than the cold iron insect armor he had previously sold. Most importantly, it was cheap. The characteristic of alloy is that it combines a bunch of very ordinary metals to create an extremely powerful metal. While his insect armor appeared incredibly powerful, the actual cost was minimal, and his profit margin on selling insect armor was terrifyingly high. Unsurprisingly, the alloy insect armor became an instant sensation after its release, with people flocking to buy it every day. Master Song's insect armor shop was booming once again. Half a year passed in the blink of an eye. In the past 6 months, Long Zhuan had already successfully researched the recipe for the wine. Because the main ingredient was the fruit of the world tree, and each fruit contained a vast world, he named the wine the Great Thousand World Wine. The recipe for the Great Thousand World Wine was complete, only the ingredients were missing. In the past 6 months, he had used Master Song's insect armor shop to collect most of the ingredients listed in the recipe, except for 3 that he still hadn't found. The ingredients that could be used with the world tree fruit to make the wine were extremely rare. With bad luck, it wouldn't be possible to collect them even in 10 years, let alone 6 months. No matter how anxious Long Zhuan was, there was nothing he could do. That day, an uninvited guest arrived at Master Song's insect armor shop. Long Zhuan was sitting in the shop, yawning with boredom, when a man in a black robe entered and went straight to the shop's prized possessions. Master Song's insect armor shop had 3 prized possessions, all Gu King level insect armor crafted from 4th grade alloy holy gold. The condition for exchanging them was the 3 missing ingredients, which had been sitting there for over half a year without anyone successfully exchanging them. It was precisely because his shop contained 3 rank 4 insect armor that Long Zhuan once again brought out a Gu King master capable of crafting rank 4 insect armor, intimidating the troublemakers. To this day, no one dares to cause trouble in his shop. With a trust Gu as witness, everyone firmly believes he has a formidable master. Seeing the black-robed man suddenly enter the shop, Long Zhuan suddenly shuddered, instantly losing all sleepiness. He stared intently at the mysterious black-robed man, his brow furrowed. Most of the time he had his clones running the shop, but this day he had been sitting there out of boredom, and unexpectedly, a customer with a progress rate 5 decimal places entered. A creature with such a long progress rate couldn't possibly be human. What was it? Could it be a transformed spirit beast? Long Zhuan became wary. At this moment, the man in black robes finally spoke. Interesting, truly interesting. It's clearly made of 4th grade metal, yet its hardness surpasses that of most 5th grade metals. In this world where the Gu King is supreme, this metal is invincible, no one in the world can break it, truly worthy of being the shop's prized possession. I would call these 3 insect armors the number 1 insect armor in the Gu world, the man in black robes exclaimed excitedly. Long Zhuan gently stroked the back of the honesty Gu and smiled. Senior has excellent eyesight. The metal used in these insect armors was obtained by my master from a ruin. The quantity was limited, allowing only 3 insect armors to be made. This metal is extremely strange, even my master couldn't discern its origin, let alone its name. Could it be that Senior is also an insect armor master? After being processed with an encryption array, most people don't have this level of discernment. Chapter 419 The Great Thousand Wine is made. The man in black robes shook his head and said, I'm not an insect armor master, I'm a 4th grade weapon refiner. I'm going to the Radiant Moon Empire to participate in the Western region's weapon refining competition. Originally, this competition was teeming with geniuses, and I had no confidence whatsoever, but with this kind of metal to my aid, I think the championship is practically guaranteed. The man in black robes clenched his fist, head held high, exuding powerful confidence. Hearing this, Long Zhuan's expression turned strange. Him? He actually wants to win the Western region's weapon refining competition? This guy isn't human. There's a high probability he's a transformed spirit beast. It's already unbelievable that a transformed spirit beast could learn human weapon refining techniques, but it dares to boast that it will win the competition and crush all human weapon refiners. Such arrogance. Longzhuan found it all very strange. Could a spirit beast's weapon refining talent really surpass that of a human? He simply couldn't believe it. Having run his insect armor shop for a long time, with people coming and going, his information network was fairly well informed. He knew about the Western region's weapon forging competition being held by the 10 kingdoms led by the Radiant Moon Empire. This Western region's weapon forging competition was on the same scale as the alchemy competition half a year ago, gathering almost all the weapon forgers in the entire Western regions. Many people from Sin City had already set off to watch the excitement. Not only that, he had also heard that after the Western region's weapon forging competition, there would be a Western region's array formation competition, a Western region's talisman making competition, and even more astonishingly, a Western region's insect armor master competition. This really startled him. When did his haphazard creations become worthy of such a large-scale competition, encompassing the entire Western regions? With a heavenly eye-shrinking weapon patterns, array patterns, and runes, he would feel it was unjust not to win these competitions. But after thinking about it, Longzhuan decided to let it go and give the opportunity to the younger generation to shine. He shouldn't try to show off. Showing off would only bring trouble. You mean, you plan to melt down one of your shop's prized possessions to refine a weapon? Longzhuan couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. These alloy insect armors were his painstaking creations, and the spirit beast actually intended to melt them down for weapon refining. What a waste. The black-robed man shook his head and laughed. You're mistaken. I don't want one of your shop's prized possessions, I want all of them. Hearing this, Longzhuan became wary. Could it be that this spirit beast had developed a desire to forcibly seize them? The city of Sin had a rule against killing and stealing treasures, which Shivanapiku King couldn't violate. The key was that this guy was an untamed spirit beast. How could he care about human rules? Just as Longzhuan was lost in thought, the black-robed man took out a pile of spiritual fruits from his storage ring and placed them on the table, laughing loudly. Didn't you want the fire spirit fruit, ice spirit fruit, and wood spirit fruit? I happen to have all three kinds of spiritual fruits. I'll take these three treasures. As he spoke, the black-robed man picked up an insect shell with one hand. Stroking it lovingly, a look of excitement on his face. Longzhuan's expression froze instantly. It wasn't surprising he misunderstood. He had spent half a year collecting none of these three earth-grade spiritual fruits. He would never have imagined this person, no, this beast possessed all three. What was the origin of this spirit beast that it was so wealthy? Could it be the beast king of a forest? However, this spirit beast wasn't very bright. It hadn't specified the quantity of each type of spiritual fruit, meaning only one of each was needed. This silly spirit beast had given him a whole bunch of each kind. Indeed, spirit beasts were spirit beasts, certainly not as intelligent as humans. Longzhuan, fearing he might change his mind, immediately went over and collected all the spiritual fruits on the table. Each fruit was fresh, seemingly just picked. He removed the pulp and tossed the seeds onto the three elemental floating islands, hoping to grow three more earth-grade spiritual fruit trees. Not bad. Not bad. This metal is truly excellent. The black-robed man scratched the three insect shells forcefully, but after failing to leave a mark, he laughed loudly. I'm leaving. If you can find this metal again, come to the weaponry sect of the Radiant Moon Empire and find me. I'll buy it at a high price. To be honest, I have gold spirit fruit, water spirit fruit, earth spirit fruit, wind spirit fruit, and thunder spirit fruit, and some of them are not just a tiny bit. With that, the black-robed man left with the three alloy insect shells. On the street, seeing someone trade away Master Song's three treasured insect shells, many demonic cultivators' eyes flashed with greed, and they slowly followed. The spirit beast held the insect armor in its hands, stroking it lovingly. Soon, a group of people with ulterior motives followed behind it. Longzhuan shook his head, unsure whether to worry about the spirit beast's intelligence or to mourn for the demonic cultivators behind it. They still didn't know who they were trying to abduct. I never imagined this spirit beast had a sect. I thought its weapon refining skills were stolen. Who would dare take a spirit beast as a disciple? Longzhuan's eyes flashed, a thoughtful expression on his face. Since this spirit beast could see the secret of the insect armor, it's possible others could too. It seems this insect armor shop can't stay open. Now that the last three ingredients for the Great Thousand Wine have been collected, let's permanently close Master Song's insect armor shop. and let Master Song's persona disappear forever, Long Zhuan made his decision, closed the shop, stored everything inside in his storage ring, and left through the Suogu hut. Not long after he left through the Suogu hut, it was burnt to ashes by a timed flame. Time passed swiftly, and 3 months went by in a flash. This day marked the completion of the Great Thousand Wine. On the main island, Long Zhuan lifted the lid of a wine vat, and an incredibly rich aroma wafted out, quickly filling the space. He sniffed the aroma and revealed a look of intoxication. So this is the Great Thousand Wine brewed from the fruit of the world tree? The aroma is indeed intense, just a whiff is enough to make one drunk. What if I take a sip? What if I distill it again? A smile appeared on Long Zhuan's lips. Unable to resist any longer, he lightly scooped a little wine with a ladle, poured half a cup into a glass, took a deep breath, raised the glass, and drank it all in one gulp. The Great Thousand Wine entered his stomach, its mellow fragrance flowed from the tip of his tongue into his throat, and then from his throat into his stomach. In an instant, his entire body felt warm and comfortable. After downing a cup of wine, he felt incredibly refreshed, as if his soul was about to float away from his body, experiencing a blissful state. The lingering aroma of the Great Thousand Wine on his tongue was unforgettable. It was the most delicious wine he had ever tasted, bar none. Long Zhuan resisted the urge to drink another cup. Even without distillation, this wine was incredibly strong. Half a cup was already his limit. The immense energy contained within the world tree fruit was all contained in this potent liquor, and even half a cup made Long Zhuan feel like he was about to burst. He dared not indulge any further, immediately closing his eyes and focusing all his energy on refining the medicinal power flowing into his body. The more extraordinary the wine, the more extraordinary its effects. It was not merely for satisfying the palate. The world tree was so extraordinary, how could wine brewed from its fruit be ordinary? During the process of refining the immense medicinal power, Long Zhuan finally understood the special effects of the Great Thousand Wine. Those who drank the Great Thousand Wine could awaken the fire spirit body, ice spirit body, and wood spirit body. However, there might be certain requirements regarding the quantity. One's alcohol tolerance must be high, not even a drop or two, not even half a cup, otherwise the awakening will fail due to insufficient medicinal power. A wine that can awaken a special physique is truly heaven-defying. Long Zhuan's eyes gleamed, his breathing becoming rapid. This Great Thousand Wine had indeed not disappointed him. It's just a pity that the 10 absolute physique, being the most extraordinary physique in the world, rejects any weaker physique. Drinking the Great Thousand Wine would only satisfy his cravings, having no effect whatsoever. This large vat of Great Thousand Wine would only benefit Xiao Bai. How much Great Thousand Wine could a mere 3 world tree fruits brew? After Xiao Bai drinks the Great Thousand Wine and completes his transformation, there probably won't be many drops left for him. Long Zhuan gave a wry smile. Now that the Great Thousand Wine was brewed, the next step was to distill it. Long Zhuan took out the distillation tools and began to distill the Great Thousand Wine himself. After some time, the Great Thousand Wine was finally distilled. The distilled Dacian wine was extremely concentrated, its aroma several times stronger than before. Even a whiff was enough to make one want to get drunk. Long Zhuan, his face flushed, pinched his nose to avoid getting drunk, staring at the severely reduced Dacian wine in the vat with great heartache. Dacian wine was already scarce, and after distillation, only a few drops remained. He wondered if this was enough for Xiao Bai's transformation. Without further hesitation, he finally pulled Xiao Bai, who was fast asleep in the insect-rearing bag, and threw it directly into the vat. Xiao Bai landed in the vat, finally waking from its dream. It instinctively flailed, inevitably getting some wine into its mouth. Sensing the exquisite aroma on its tongue, its eyes lit up, as if it had discovered a new world. This was the finest wine it had ever tasted in its life. The best wine it had ever tasted, without exception. Even the distilled wines with their 4 flavors, sweet, sour, bitter, and spicy, it had drunk before couldn't compare to this. The wine goo, a voracious drinker, was overjoyed to see such fine wine before it and immediately began to drink heartily. Before long, after only a few sips, it closed its eyes, floated belly up on the surface of the wine, and died. Good heavens, this once invincible wine goo had drunk itself to death again. How many times had this happened? The wine goo was known as the greatest drinker in the world, a creature that would never get drunk. Yet this wine goo had repeatedly gotten drunk in its hands, utterly shameful and useless. Long Zhuan, exasperated, slammed the lid on the wine vat, leaving it to soak inside. Meanwhile, the Great Thousand wine was successfully brewed, and the wine goose transformation was resolved. Longzhuan finally had time to calmly cultivate. In less than 6 months, the Radiant Moon Empire's tea and wine tasting competition would begin. After the wine and tea parties, the river mystic realm will open, and countless Gu kings who have fallen in cultivation level will flood into it. His mid-stage spirit sea realm is still too low, he's no match for those Gu kings. Even if the Gu kings have fallen in cultivation level, they're still at the peak of the spirit sea realm. Facing these powerful figures, he only has a chance if he breaks through to the late-stage spirit sea realm. Fighting 2 levels higher isn't very safe, but he's confident if he fights 1 level higher, at least guaranteeing him no defeat. His primary task now is to break through to the late-stage spirit sea realm before the tea and wine tasting parties. Time is of the essence, and even his body, which never cultivates, is now joining in. A book recommended by a friend in a premium group, currently at 2,000 average views, has the potential to be a premium read. Chapter 420 The Current State of the Heavenly Phoenix Empire. Meanwhile, in Radiant Moon Empire, Radiant Moon City. Today is the final day of the Western region's weapon forging competition. This competition, which has caused a sensation throughout the entire Western regions, has gathered almost all of the most talented weapon forgers. After rigorous selection, only 10 remain in the plaza. Outside the plaza, a sea of spectators cheered excitedly, creating a cacophony of noise. In front of the plaza was a huge platform, where over 100 judges from various countries, as well as powerful figures from all sides, sat. Seated at the very front of the platform were the 10 chief weapon forgers of the 10 empires, but one seat was empty. One of the 10 chief weapon forgers was absent. Beside the empty seat, a burly man with a thick physique curled his lip, saying listlessly, "Fenga didn't come." It's an unwritten tradition for the Dragon and Phoenix clans to gamble whenever they meet. I was hoping to win something from him this time, but it seems I won't have the chance. What a disappointment. 6 months ago, Long Xiaoyao won 10 of the Phoenix clan's chief alchemists' natal Gu worms in the alchemy competition. I'm so envious. Kinzan stroked his white beard and glanced at him, saying, "Long Badian, everyone knows that the Heavenly Phoenix Empire is being invaded by a mysterious puppet army. Don't make sarcastic remarks. Currently, 90% of the Heavenly Phoenix Empire's territory has fallen under the puppet army's attack. The Heavenly Phoenix Empire is facing a life-or-death situation. How could the Phoenix clan's chief weapon refiner possibly be here?" The topic was brought up here, and the judges on the platform all showed solemn expressions and joined the discussion. What is the origin of this puppet army? It's as if it fell from the sky, appearing suddenly without any warning. I don't know. It's said there are at least 5 million puppets. Faced with such a terrifying number, the Heavenly Phoenix Empire simply couldn't withstand it, losing most of its territory in just a few months. It's barely clinging to life now, its demise is inevitable. Such a terrifying number of puppets must have cost an astronomical sum to create. How could they possibly hide them? But now they've appeared out of thin air. It's simply eerie. I heard these puppets come from the Heavenly Island ruins, and the one controlling them is the god of gamblers who instigated the 4 nations gamble on their fate. I don't know if it's true, but the rumors probably aren't unfounded. Don't gloat. If one falls, the other is vulnerable. Who knows if this puppet army, after destroying the Heavenly Phoenix Empire, will turn around and attack other empires. With such a terrifying number of puppets, I think no single nation could withstand them. We should prepare for a united front. On the high platform, the judges were abuzz with discussion, their faces etched with solemnity and worry. The sudden appearance of the mysterious puppet army made them feel uneasy. Wang An frowned, his anxiety growing with each thought. In his view, the Feng clan had lost half of their clan's fortune in a bet with the Long clan, and as a result, Xianfeng City was quickly burned down. The disappearance of the nation's capital seemed like a harbinger of misfortune. Afterward, the Xianfeng Empire suffered a series of setbacks, and in less than a year, it had almost reached the point of collapse. Could losing half of one's clan's fortune really have such a significant impact? He couldn't help but worry. In the high-stakes bet of the alchemy competition, the Huayu Empire had also lost half of its clan's fortune to the Yanting Empire. Could the fate of the Xianfeng Empire be the fate of his Huayu Empire tomorrow? Would Huayu soon follow in its footsteps? Thinking this, he became even more uneasy, and had no mind to preside over the upcoming weapon refining competition. Alright, enough of that. Let's begin the final round of the weapon refining competition. Time's up, and the audience is getting impatient. A respected elder spoke up, and Wang Yin could only compose himself, standing up with a heavy heart. After looking around, he shouted, I think everyone is already familiar with the rules of the final round of the weapon refining competition. Simply put, each person must refine their best spiritual weapon, any type, and the one with the highest value wins. Now I declare the final round of this Western region's weapon refining competition officially open. Upon hearing this, cheers erupted from below, a wave of sound forming as every spectator became incredibly excited. After announcing the start of the competition, Wang Yin finally sat down, his mind clearly not on the competition at hand. Compared to him, Long Body On seemed to be in a good mood, laughing. Why don't you all guess who the final champion will be? I guess it's that disciple of the Grand Elder of the Weapon Sect. Oh? You mean that weapon maniac? Kinzan turned to look at him, smiling. I heard that this person is extremely obsessed with weapon crafting, but his talent for it is extremely poor, because he knelt in front of the weapon sect's gate for 10 days in the heavy snow without eating or drinking. He finally moved the Grand Elder and was accepted as a disciple. Because of his obsession with weapon crafting to the point of madness, his master named him Weapon Maniac. This person is extremely hard-working and has amazing perseverance. He trains 10 times harder than his fellow disciples every day, and it is through hard work that he has achieved his current level of weapon crafting skills. In the world of weapon crafting, there are very few examples of the slow bird starting early. Currently, his total score is tied with 4 other people. Whether he can really defeat a genius whose talent is 10 times greater than his through his own efforts is really hard to say. HMPH. What a load of rubbish. Effort is utterly worthless in the face of talent, Wang Yin scoffed. His terrifying wealth is the main reason he's achieved what he has today. Others have limited resources and can't use large quantities of precious materials for practice. Unlike him, his wealth seems inexhaustible. He uses as many precious materials as he wants without any regard for saving. He must have squandered countless mountains of gold and silver while learning weapon crafting. Due to financial constraints, his fellow geniuses only had 1 chance to practice, while he got 100. How can that compare? With so many weapon crafting materials, even a pig could fly. It's no wonder he reached the finals of the weapon crafting competition. It's all thanks to his wealth, not his hard work. Perhaps because of his bad mood, Wang Yin's tone was somewhat unfriendly. Previously, the Radiant Moon Empire had lost half of its national fortune to the Flame Court Empire. To reclaim its fortune, the Radiant Moon Empire gambled again with the Flame Court Empire in this weapon crafting competition. Because the Yanting Empire lacked any outstanding weapon forging geniuses, the two nations made a bet on whether the Wang family's weapon forging genius could win the championship of this weapon forging competition. If the Wang family's weapon forgers won the championship, they would win back half of their national fortune. If the Wang family's weapon forgers failed to win the championship, even if they only achieved second place, they would lose another half of the Yanting Empire's national fortune. If the Wei Yu Empire lost another half of its national fortune, then its national fortune would be gone, leaving it at 0. No one dared to imagine what terrifying things would happen if a country's national fortune were 0. Therefore, the Wei Yu Empire was determined to win this weapon forging competition, even at the cost of everything. Naturally, he wouldn't give a friendly look to the weapon forging fanatic, the Wang family's biggest competitor. At this moment, 10 weapon forging geniuses had already begun forging weapons in the square. Due to the depletion of spiritual energy in the world, it was becoming increasingly difficult for weapon forgers to reach the 4th grade level by the age of 50. However, the situation in the weapon refining world is much better than in the alchemy world. There are 5 4th grade weapon refiners and 5 3rd grade weapon refiners standing in the finals, far exceeding the 2 4th grade alchemists in the alchemy competition. In the number 1 position, the weapon refining fanatic wore a smug expression. Although his actual age was well over 50, his human body, after transforming, was younger than 50. He had used a special method to exploit a significant bug, thus successfully qualifying for the competition. The weapon refining fanatic looked at his aged master in the crowd. His master nodded to him with a smile, and his beautiful senior sister beside him waved her fist and playfully called out, "Go, junior brother." The weapon refining fanatic grinned, a flash of affection in his eyes. This encouragement fueled his motivation even more. He clenched his fist, his gaze becoming resolute. Winning the weapon refining competition had always been his dream, and he had worked tirelessly towards it. Today was the day he would realize his dream. I, Kichi, am determined to win this weapon refining competition. I will return to the weapon sect with boundless glory, slap those elders in the face, and show them that Master was right to choose me as his disciple, Kichi roared inwardly, finally no longer hesitating. He took out a large piece of black metal from his stored ring. Under the control of his soul power, the black metal hovered in the air, and a ball of colorful flame suddenly appeared beneath it, burning fiercely. As soon as this fire appeared, the temperature in the plaza rose sharply. One by one, the flames of the other contestants around him went out. In just a few breaths, all the flames of the contestants were extinguished. In the entire Radiant Moon City, apart from this ball of colorful flame, not a single flame remained burning. All the goo cultivators in the audience were greatly shocked, and the judges on the high platform stood up one after another. This is colored flames. This kind of flame should only belong to the Peacock Skyfire. Ranked 19th on the Heavenly Fire ranking, it's actually Heavenly Fire. He actually possesses the legendary Heavenly Fire. I never expected to be fortunate enough to see Heavenly Fire in this weapon refining competition. Is the 19th ranked Heavenly Fire something a Goo King could subdue? The judges on the high platform were all stunned, their expressions filled with shock. I can probably tell what metal he's melting. Under the power of the Heavenly Fire, this metal hasn't melted for so long. Long Badian looked at the black metal, his expression extremely solemn. Kinzan shook his head, moved, and said, I believe I've recognized all the metal materials in this world, whether they are extinct or not, but this kind of metal is something I've never seen before, it's unheard of. I don't know where this weapon-obsessed person found it, mysterious metal. Heavenly Fire, Wang unclenched his fists, his face growing increasingly grim. The combination of these two things made him feel pressured, and the ominous feeling in his heart grew stronger. Chapter 421 The Terrifying Mysterious Metal. June 26, 2024 Author, Xiangkangshan Shui 500 years time flowed slowly, and before anyone knew it, 7 days had passed in a flash. The 7 days hadn't reduced the crowd of onlookers, on the contrary, they had grown even larger. Everyone's excited gazes were fixed on the square, showing no impatience, especially on the object enthusiast in the square, who received the most attention. That day, the originally clear sky suddenly became overcast with dark clouds. Before anyone knew it, dark clouds had gathered above everyone's heads, thunder rumbled within the clouds, the deafening roar causing those below to cover their ears, their eyes filled with horror. Then, a fierce wind began to blow across the square, the powerful gale almost lifting people up, and all the sands and debris on the ground were swept into the air. On the high platform, the judges had to shield their eyes to prevent the swirling sands from getting into them. Seeing this terrifying sight, the judges on the high platform were shocked, and slowly, one by one, they stood up. A lightning tribulation. This is a lightning tribulation attracted by weapon crafting. I've been a 4th grade weapon crafter for hundreds of years, and this is the first time I've ever seen someone craft a spiritual weapon that can attract a lightning tribulation. Witnessing the birth of a lightning tribulation firsthand, my life has not been in vain. This is the legendary lightning tribulation? I never expected that a genius in this weapon crafting competition could craft a spiritual weapon that could attract a lightning tribulation. It's truly spectacular. I think the championship is rightfully his. The judges on the high platform were all extremely excited, their faces flushed, and they discussed loudly. Who exactly is it? Which genius attracted the lightning tribulation? Kinzan's eyes shone as he surveyed the 10 geniuses in the square. That's naturally our clan's weapon forging genius, Wang Liang. His flowing cloud sword is almost finished. I never expected his flowing cloud sword to attract a lightning tribulation. It seems the champion of this weapon forging competition is none other than our Wang clan. You flatter me. You flatter me. Wang Yin smiled and cupped his hands in greeting to those around him, his eyes filled with undisguised excitement. He felt victory was assured. With the appearance of the lightning tribulation, the tension and anxiety he had felt over the past 7 days had finally vanished. Hearing this, everyone's gaze turned to a young man named Wang Liang. This young man was quite handsome, with an arrogant look in his eyes. At this moment, a gleaming silver spirit sword floated above his head, and above the spirit sword, rampant red lightning seemed to be about to undergo the baptism of the red lightning tribulation. How? I never expected this, I really never expected it. The spiritual weapon I forged could actually attract a legendary 10th ranked annihilation lightning. Let's see what you can use to fight me now. Wang Liang turned his head to look at the weapon-forging fanatic beside him, a look of disdain in his eyes, and sneered, "So what if you have heavenly fire? Having heavenly fire doesn't guarantee you can forge a good weapon. A weapon-forging trash is a weapon-forging trash. Even if you have heavenly fire to cheat, you can't possibly beat a weapon-forging genius like me. You're doomed to lose this round." However, no sooner had he finished speaking than a sudden change occurred. The weapon-forging fanatic completely ignored his taunts and simply threw the stick in front of him into the sky, where a loud explosion rang out. The sound was extremely deafening, causing everyone to instinctively cover their ears, their eyes filled with horror. To everyone's astonishment, a white tribulation cloud suddenly appeared above the red tribulation cloud. After the white tribulation cloud appeared, it instantly devoured the red tribulation cloud, leaving nothing behind. In the face of the powerful white tribulation cloud, the red tribulation cloud was utterly powerless to resist. This, Wang Liang's expression froze, completely dumbfounded. He had just provoked his opponent, only to be humiliated the next second, his face burning with shame. My tribulation cloud was actually swallowed up. How is this possible? How is this possible? Wang Liang's eyes widened in horror, roaring like a madman, his face contorted with rage. This is, staring at the suddenly appearing white tribulation cloud, all the judges widened their eyes, their expressions utterly distraught. This is the legendary reincarnation lightning. Reincarnation lightning ranks 9th on the tribulation lightning list, far more terrifying than annihilation lightning. This artifact fanatic actually forged a spiritual weapon that can attract reincarnation lightning. Am I seeing things? An old man shouted in disbelief, rubbing his eyes as he looked again incredulously. At this moment, the entire audience gasped, everyone stunned. If the annihilation lightning had shocked them, the reincarnation lightning was utterly terrifying. Wang An stared intently at the white tribulation clouds that suddenly appeared in the sky, his fists clenched, his eyes bloodshot. Without a doubt, judging by the intensity of the tribulation lightning, the Wang clan was doomed to lose this weapon refining competition. What should have been a sure thing, something he just boasted about, had suddenly turned into a disaster. Someone had defied the heavens and summoned a reincarnation lightning even more terrifying than the annihilation lightning. He was practically going mad with rage, his gaze towards the weapon-refining fanatic growing increasingly venomous, releasing a palpable killing intent. Boom! Amidst the shocked gazes of the crowd, a bolt of white lightning suddenly descended. The intense white light pierced everyone's eyes and illuminated their faces, making them appear snow white. The weapon-refining fanatic abruptly raised his head, staring at the suddenly descending reincarnation lightning. His fingers trembled slightly, his gaze filled with solemnity. How could he not know the power of the tribulation lightning? Under the might of heaven, he dared not conceal his abilities, nor did he care about hiding his identity. With a roar, his body suddenly swelled, bursting through his clothes and revealing golden fur. His figure rapidly expanded, reaching a height of tens of meters in the blink of an eye. What appeared before everyone's eyes was a giant golden monkey. Upon seeing such a colossal creature, everyone gaped in shock. The golden monkey's enormous feet stomped across the plaza, leaving massive footprints in the ground. The contestants below, no longer caring about refining their weapons, fled in panic. Whether fearing being trampled to death or being struck by the descending reincarnation lightning. The giant golden monkey roared to the sky, unleashing a deafening howl, and slammed its fist heavily into the oncoming reincarnation lightning. Boom! The fist collided with a reincarnation lightning, producing a deafening thud that shook the entire earth. Those nearby bled from their ears, their faces contorted in pain, their eyes filled with terror as they frantically fled, daring not to linger any longer. The arrival of the tribulation lightning was not something these ants could afford to watch. Scattered fragments of the lightning already fell, causing considerable casualties among the dense crowd. The judges on the high platform were all horrified, staring up at the giant golden monkey with disbelief in their eyes. The weapon-forging fanatic wasn't human, it was a transformed spirit beast. This utterly astonished them. A spirit beast knowing how to forge weapons was one thing, but to defeat all the human genius weapon refiners and win the championship of this weapon-forging competition was another? They were all dumbfounded. The judges' faces gradually darkened. A weapon-forging competition hosted by humans had been won by a spirit beast. This was a scandal for them. Did this mean that they, the weapon refiners, were inferior to a spirit beast? Where would their pride be? Weapon forging is a human exclusive ability. For a spirit beast to learn human weapon forging techniques and surpass all human weapon refiners is truly unbelievable. Longbody stared blankly at the giant golden monkey, clicking his tongue in amazement. No wonder his talent for weapon crafting is so poor. If this weapon crafting fanatic is a spirit beast that loves weapon crafting, then it makes perfect sense, Kinzan said with a wry smile. I really didn't expect that the weapon crafting fanatic is actually a spirit beast. It should be the Monkey King from 10,000 Monkey Mountain, said to be called the bright-eyed stone monkey, whose bloodline has already reverted to its ancestral form. Looking at the entire western regions, there aren't many people who can contend with this Monkey King. Longbody looked at the golden giant monkey, his expression extremely solemn. You two stop talking. The lightning tribulation strikes are getting stronger with each strike. The next lightning tribulation is not something we can just stand by and watch. Run, an old man shouted, and everyone finally came to their senses. Seeing that the second lightning tribulation was about to descend, everyone's face turned pale, and they all shuddered and hurriedly ran towards the city gate. Master, senior sister looked at the weapon crafting fanatic with worried eyes, her lips pursed. Let's hurry, the lightning tribulation doesn't discriminate, don't worry, as long as he gives up that spiritual artifact, he'll be fine. The old man covered the girl's eyes, glanced solemnly at the white lightning in the sky, and quickly pulled the girl away. The scene that unfolded in Xianfeng City was now playing out in Huayu City. The golden giant monkey roared incessantly in the city center, stubbornly resisting one lightning tribulation after another. The plaza and the surrounding buildings had long been destroyed by the lightning tribulation, completely reduced to ruins. The lightning tribulation continued unabated, its power growing increasingly terrifying. Under the world-destroying scene, everyone's face turned pale, genuinely feeling the horror of the lightning tribulation. How terrifying must a creature be to survive repeated attacks from the lightning tribulation? Looking at the golden giant ape still roaring angrily in the lightning tribulation, everyone fell silent, their eyes filled with shock. The tribulation lightning lasted for an unknown period. Finally, with a final bolt of lightning striking, the deafening thunder ceased, the dark clouds in the sky dispersed, and bright sunlight once again streamed down, plunging Radiant Moon City into silence. The golden giant monkey had long since returned to its original size, but its condition was dire. Under the relentless bombardment of the lightning, its golden fur was charred black, and its injuries were so severe it was on the verge of death. Lying on the ground, panting heavily, it looked at the black staff against its chest and smiled with relief. It had no strength to withstand the last two bolts of lightning. The only reason it survived was because, in its panic, it instinctively raised the newly forged heaven-imprisoning staff. The staff's hardness far exceeded its expectations, managing to withstand the last two bolts of reincarnation lightning without being destroyed. It seemed that the heaven-imprisoning staff, after being tempered by the tribulation, had become even more wondrous, its quality rising several levels. What kind of metal is this? It's so hard. With the enhancement of the artifact's patterns, it can even withstand a lightning tribulation. The artifact fanatic gently stroked the patterns on the staff, his eyes filled with undisguised joy. After sensing the extraordinary nature of the prisoner's staff, his expression grew increasingly solemn. The prisoner's strength far exceeded his expectations. Not only had it unexpectedly attracted the ninth tribulation reincarnation lightning, but it had also successfully withstood the tribulation, further enhancing its quality by absorbing the lightning. What kind of concept is a spiritual artifact that can successfully withstand a lightning tribulation? It's a true divine artifact, possibly even the number one divine artifact in the Gu world. This divine artifact must possess heaven-defying power, otherwise, why would it incur the wrath of the heavens, which would even send down a lightning tribulation to destroy it? The artifact fanatic's fingers, stroking the patterns on the prisoner's staff, trembled with excitement. His breathing was rapid, being able to personally forge a divine artifact filled him with unprecedented satisfaction. This divine artifact would surely shake the entire Gu world, and he, its creator, would undoubtedly become famous because of it. He could see the value of this divine artifact, and so could the other humans. Now that the tribulation clouds had disappeared, the Gu kings who had re-entered the city all stared at the imprisoning heaven staff in his arms with gleaming eyes, their greed reaching its peak. This was a divine artifact capable of attracting the reincarnation lightning. A spiritual artifact that could successfully withstand the reincarnation lightning must be incredibly powerful, and its owner would undoubtedly gain unparalleled combat strength among those of the same level. Otherwise, it wouldn't deserve to attract the lightning tribulation. With such a divine artifact right before their eyes, and its owner severely injured under the lightning tribulation, how could they not be tempted? Seeing that the protective array of Radiant Moon City had been destroyed by the lightning tribulation, leaving their path unobstructed, the greedy Goo Kings immediately conceived the idea of killing and robbing. After all, it was just a spirit beast, killing it wouldn't hurt, and what would happen if they took its divine artifact? Killing a spirit beast wasn't illegal. At this moment, the Goo Kings could no longer control their greed and swarmed forward. A similar scene, the chaotic battle that occurred in Heavenly Phoenix City after the lightning tribulation, was now about to unfold in Radiant Moon City. Chapter 422 Little White Awakens. June 27, 2024 Author, Xiangkangshenze Shui Wu Bai Ni in your courting death. How dare you steal your grandpa's things? Seeing a group of Goo Kings charging towards him with bloodshot eyes, the weapon maniac twirled the prisoner of heaven's staff in his hand and swept it horizontally. This prisoner of heaven's staff, which had undergone tribulation by lightning, seemed to be able to defy the heavens and change its weight at will. With one strike, it was as heavy as 10,000 jun. All the spiritual weapons that collided with it shattered, and the wielder's hands ached and blood flowed. After destroying a group of spiritual weapons, the prisoner of heaven's staff did not lose its momentum. With one strike, it smashed the head of a Goo King who could not dodge in time, killing him miserably on the ground. How could spiritual weapons withstand the power of a divine weapon? With a few more swings, all the spiritual weapons that came into contact with a divine weapon turned into scrap metal and lost their luster. Every now and then, Goo Kings had their heads smashed and fell to the ground. With just a few strikes, the Goo Kings were terrified and hurriedly retreated to avoid the sharpness of the divine weapon. Having witnessed the terrifying power of the divine artifact firsthand, the Goo Kings were filled with fear and dared not approach easily. However, the artifact's power also made their gazes even more eager. Taking advantage of the Goo King's retreat, the weapon maniac coughed up blood, clearly indicating that the blows he had just wielded had aggravated his injuries. He glanced at the Goo Kings slowly surrounding him, knowing that he could not linger in the fight now. He swung his staff again to the right, and the Goo Kings on the right changed their expressions and dodged. The weapon maniac, carrying the prisoner of heaven's staff, fled through the opening. Leave the divine artifact behind. We can't let him get away. Seeing that he was seriously injured, the Goo Kings were not about to let their prize escape, and they all gave chase. Outside the city, seeing that the champion was actually a spirit beast, Wang Yin's face darkened for a moment. A plan formed in his mind, and he shouted, "Good. A foreign race has infiltrated. How can a foreign race participate in a human weapon refining competition? This round doesn't count." Suddenly, he turned his sharp gaze to the Grand Elder of the weapon sect, and said in a sinister tone, "You have quite the audacity to collude with foreign races and even dare to teach them humanity's precious weapon refining techniques. You are a traitor to humanity. Guards, take this human traitor away. Await your punishment," Wang Yin roared, and several Wang clan Goo cultivators immediately rushed forward, violently taking the master and disciple away. The Grand Elder of the weapon sect sighed, lowered his head, and said nothing more. The girl beside him showed fear in her eyes, her face pale, but ultimately she did not utter a single word of begging for mercy. HMPH, Wang Yin snorted coldly as he watched the two being led away. The various sects within the Radiant Moon Empire were not under the control of the royal family, and he had long wanted to eliminate them, but lacked a reason to send troops. Now, by pinning the crime of human traitors on the weapon sect, he could use this as a pretext to openly wipe them out. Wang Yin's eyes flashed with murderous intent, clearly. He wanted to spread the fire throughout the entire weapon sect, and killing just 2 people would not be enough. 2 months later, in Thunder Swamp, on the main island inside the devouring heaven world toad, Long Zhuan lifted Little White from a wine vat and sneered, "You actually want a refill? You really think I can't see through your feigned sleep, since you've successfully transformed? Don't waste my good wine. Don't you know my wine is very expensive?" Long Zhuan threw Little White out, stuck his head into the wine vat, and saw that only a little was left. He felt a pang of regret. Good heavens, there was only this much left. Who could drink that? He only had 3 world tree fruits, and for a long time, he could only brew this many great thousand wines. Every drop he used was a finite resource. The Great Thousand wine was so incredibly potent that it was clearly beyond the repair capabilities of the repairing goo. The little Great Thousand wine remaining in the vat was his only stockpile. He didn't know how much the river god required for sacrifices, or if this little bit of wine would be enough. Long Zhuan sighed softly, took out a gourd, and poured all the remaining wine into it for safekeeping. This gourd was from the seven-colored gourd vine. The seven-colored gourd vine was a heavenly grade spiritual herb, and the gourd it produced could rapidly increase the age of the wine, and its enormous capacity made it a rare and extraordinary item, perfect for storing his various divine wines. After acquiring the seven-colored gourd vine seed at the heavenly Phoenix City Alchemist Trade Fair, he had been focusing his medicinal goo's full power to accelerate its ripening. As expected, the seven-colored gourd vine seed, which was difficult for others to sprout, easily took root and sprouted under the careful care of the medicinal goo. After so much time, the seven-colored gourd vine was finally ripened successfully, but the time was still a bit short. Only one of the seven gourds that the vine produced grew to its largest size, which he picked immediately. The other 6 gourds would need a considerable amount of time to fully mature. After stirring the wine, Long Zhuan hesitated for a moment, forcibly suppressing the urge to take a sip. He thought about it and decided against it. What was so good about Little White's bathwater? Who knew if it had peat in it? Young friend, are you there? I've run out of spirit-enhancing pills and would like to borrow some more from you. Once I recover to the peak of the Gu King realm, I will repay you with interest. At this moment, Long Zhuan vaguely heard the voice of Elder Shui outside. He smirked, a cold smile playing on his lips. This Elder Shui hadn't even taken the pills he borrowed. Did he really think he could hide it from him? At this point, they still dared to borrow pills from him. Were they afraid he would become suspicious and trying to make the act more convincing? Long Zhuan couldn't help but chuckle, secretly sighing at how cautious this old man was. How could such a cautious old man be tricked to death? He really didn't want to cooperate with such a cautious old monster unless absolutely necessary. However, he had the idea of completing the 9 elements heavy water. Without collecting all the fragmented 9 elements heavy water, it would never be perfect. When he broke through to the highest realm, the weakest element, the 1 element heavy water, would definitely not be able to keep up with his own strength. Completing the 9 elements heavy water was a must. If he wanted to snatch the 2 element heavy water from Shui Wuking, he could only cooperate with this old monster at this moment, like dealing with a tiger for its skin. Long Zhuan finally walked out of the world inside the devouring heaven world toad. Stepping out of the cave, he finally saw the old man, Shui, waiting outside. Seeing the old man's current realm, he couldn't help but be shocked. In just over half a year, this elder Shui had actually reached the Spirit Sea stage. How did he cultivate like this? Was his original body's cultivation talent really that terrifying? Long Zhuan clicked his tongue, tossed over a tattered storage bag, and said, "All the pills are in this storage bag, all newly refined by me. Use them sparingly." Elder Shui caught the flying storage bag, opened it, and looked inside. He immediately put on a beaming smile. Enough. Enough. These pills are enough to restore me to the peak of the Spirit Sea stage. I won't thank you enough. I'll remember this kindness. Elder Shui smiled, cupped his hands in thanks to Long Zhuan, and walked towards his cave with a storage bag. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.